And good morning. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Orioles sweep the Twins. Hooray, hooray. Just like we all thought, Albert Suarez, the ace the Birds have been looking for. Griffin still got to cut his picture up so that I can post it up here on the board. Coming up in a little bit, Russell Dorsey, Yahoo Sports, AppleTV. We'll chat with him about the Orioles, who, man, it was looking like for a second they were going to move into first place, too, yesterday, but the Yankees ultimately ended up coming back and beating the Blue Jays. Still, things looking good. We'll chat about it with Russell Dorsey here in a bit. Also coming up this morning, we'll make our weekly trip to Bowie to chat with a member of the Baysox. Got to trim this picture of Gunner a little bit in order to be able to put it up there.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think.
We can live.
Okay.
We can live.
Well, I was trying to keep a little bit of extra space on guys. I think I'm going to have to fit a lot of stars on.
I like that. Yes, for example, it could have been Cedric Mullins yesterday.
Yeah.
But
we can't do double.
No, we don't do double man of the match. We don't cheat.
Watch your. Yeah, there we go.
That's fine.
Okay.
We don't say, hey, we can't decide. That's for people playing Would You Rather Wednesday. That's we save that for that when people say,
no, people are
this is too difficult. I can't do this. Making a decision between one scenario and another isn't something that I'm capable of doing because we've just kind of given up as a society. But that's conversation for another day, alas.
Cedric Mullins made a good case.
Sure, he sure did. But one of them was a guy that none of us thought should be a major leaguer and yet went out and delivered 5 2/3 spectacular
Had to double
innings.
check about 2 or 3 times to make sure I had the picture of the right guy when I was.
Right, you thought it might be the other
Yes.
Suarez?
The other Suarez. There was. At first, the only pictures coming up were him in Giants hats.
Understandably,
so,
I actually don't know how they were. I guess maybe during spring training.
Yeah.
They got him in a...
For some reason, ESPN had 2 separate pictures, but it had clearly a picture of Grayson Rodriguez and then a picture of Dylan Tate as well.
That seems odd.
With Albert Suarez written underneath it.
That seems very odd. I don't
Well,
know why
that's
that would be the case.
Incorrect.
But yes, Albert Suarez is our man of the match after his really stunning start. And all those questions we were asking about yesterday, like, hey, what happens the next time? Well, the next time Albert Suarez gets to pitch again. That's the answer. The answer is Albert Suarez earned himself. Oh, my gosh. We really got to find a solution for this somehow. Hang on a second.
Okay. Do you want me?
No. That helped. That helped.
Okay.
I got that part of it figured out. Oh, no!
Well,
right. We really got to work on this. There's got to be a better way.
Do we need 2 thumbtacks for every single player? Maybe like that would just save you a little bit of time.
That's not really the problem. The problem is even getting the one thumbtack up there. Now, right now, there's a thumbtack missing.
Okay.
Oh, if I stand up, I feel like that helps, except for when the headphones fall off. This is an absolute cluster F. Hi, welcome to Glenn Clark Radio, an absolute cluster F. Here we go. Here's Suarez.
This is what happens when a guy like Albert Suarez just takes the world by storm.
Everything goes crazy. So there he is. He's our man of the match for yesterday. So, yes, Albert Suarez earns the right to start again next week. And as a lot of people pointed out, John Means did not look good in his rehab start yesterday. So
he did not.
I don't know what that means for his timeline. Because the funny part would be if one of them was ready, the question would be, would it be time for the Orioles to go ahead and boot Cole Irvin out of the rotation? But I don't know if they believe that John Means will be ready. Now, yeah, Kyle Bradish looked great, but Kyle Bradish didn't have a spring training, so Kyle Bradish is still going to make a few rehab starts before he would be ready to return. Albert Suarez, we're excited about after one start. You're not penciling him in as a starter for the rest of the season. You're saying it's enough for him to earn another opportunity, maybe a couple of more opportunities. But that's what it is. Then you judge based on what he does when given those opportunities. And maybe he continues to demand a spot in the rotation. Maybe that's the case. That would be, again, wonderful. Blessings be. But you don't decide after one start, well, that takes care of one of our starters for the rest of the season. No, not that. But certainly for next week, no question, next Tuesday in Anaheim, the Orioles will send Albert Suarez to the mound. Have they announced the rotation for this weekend yet?
I don't
to
think
address
so. They like to not reveal it.
But they normally you say that except for I think it's normally after a game. So like if they play on Thursday, it makes sense they don't line it up. Yes, they have, and they are sticking with Irvin on Sunday. So dynamite observation. They have definitely announced their starters for the weekend. Dean Kramer, as expected, Corbin Burns on Saturday, and the scenario that I had suggested where maybe they try to bump up Grayson to start on Sunday and move Cole Irvin back to Monday. They are not going to do that. They will stay on rotation going through the weekend, and Cole Irvin will start on Sunday, which means that it would be Grayson Monday and Suarez on Tuesday out in Anaheim. So that's the plan for the Orioles this weekend. By the way, it's Marsh, Reagans, and Lugo going for the Royals in what looks like a heavyweight showdown this weekend in Kansas City. Big series. As we remember, we were thinking about how the first month of the season looked like an opportunity for the Orioles to cruise against a downtrodden schedule, and as it turns out, the Royals and the Brewers are like the best teams in baseball. So go figure. Go figure. 9 games against those teams that we all on paper before the season said, there's an opportunity to make some hay. And then as the season began, that hasn't proven to be the case. It was funny because I had a lovely day at the ballpark yesterday. Went to the game. I think it got on social media. Our friend Tyus Bowser went with me to the game. By the way, what a guy. Tyus is not going to be in Baltimore moving forward. And yet, when he told me he was going to be home, I threw out the idea of, because I know he's a baseball fan, he wanted to go to the game. And he was like, yes. But then Rita wasn't going to be able to join us to go to the game, so we decided to go out the other night. And then he looked at me and was like, but we're still going to the game, right? And I was like, well, yeah, we can. That's fine. I'm for it. So he showed up in his personalized jersey. So then, everybody at the game knew who he was.
Big guy, Bowser on the back.
And wearing number 54, too. It became abundantly clear. But that was, he's such a good guy that he just didn't care. He was like happy to take pictures with everybody and the whole thing. And then as the game was ending, we hung around for a minute, just chat, and then he was like, dude, do you want to go to the store? And I was like, sure, man, we'll go to the store. And he's in there, like, ready to buy another jersey.
He's all in.
Like, he picked up a Cedric Mullins jersey at one point, but then he didn't like the Fanatics.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
And then he wanted to get a black jersey, but then they didn't have any names on the back, and he specifically wanted it to be an Orioles player that he was buying the jersey for. So then he went over and he saw the Cooperstown selections, and he legitimately decided he was going to get a Cal Ripken throwback. He's not going to be in Baltimore moving forward. He's from Houston. He is a dyed-in-the-wool Astros fan. He loves this place so much and has enjoyed himself so much here and cares so deeply about this town that on his way out the door, he's buying more Orioles gear. What a guy. Like, imagine that. I blew me away. I'm like, wow, dude, good for you, man. So we had a great time and had some other friends who invited us into their suite, which was very nice of them. And so at one point, one of the guys that was in the suite said, because we all kind of hung around. That's the nice thing about a suite is after the game's over, you're like, I don't feel the need to rush. Like, we can linger here for a second before we depart. And after the game, somebody said, but does it worry at all you that they're maybe becoming too reliant on home runs? And I thought about it for a second, and I said, oh, this is definitely a first world problem. Like, this is definitely one of those things that you're trying to project as a problem.
What if the offense is too good?
Yeah, that isn't actually a problem. Like, so I start with that. But I understood the thought process, and I apologize because I don't remember the name of the person that I was talking to. But they brought up the thing that we have discussed, which is the fact that they seem reluctant to want to steal bases, right? That they seem inclined to kind of move back into the Earl Weaver era, like the sit around and wait for the 3-run homer thing. And I hadn't thought about it, and I have no data to work with, right? Like I don't have anything. I know they're on a historic home run pace right now. There was another stat that Sarah Langs put out yesterday that spoke to the significance of the home run pace that they're on, and I've already forgotten what it was, and I apologize for that. Through the first 17 games of the season, I know this stat was going around yesterday, was the 5 players with 4 or more home runs. The only other season that they had done that was in 1966 in the first 20 games. This was for the first 17 games.
Gonna use that later.
Were you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's all right. I have another one.
I know who it is.
Yeah.
It's Boog, Bleffery, Brooks, Frank, and Davy Johnson.
Maybe I'll use it for Stan tomorrow.
Hold that. That's not bad. Yeah, hold that for Stan tomorrow. But there was another stat that Sarah Langs put out yesterday, and I can't remember what it was. But yes, like it's pretty clear.
I'll find it.
No, I know it.
All right.
I don't actually. I'm just searching Sarah Lang's Twitter page, and she puts out so much information, so many statistics.
A lot of good information.
Yes, it's very. If you love baseball, there is absolutely. Oh yeah, the Orioles have now hit 3 or more home runs in 5 straight games, tied for the second longest such streak by any team since 1900. Behind only, go figure, the 1987 Baltimore Orioles, who apparently did it in 6 straight games. Now, I don't think of the 1987 Baltimore Orioles. They were bad. I don't think of them.
I believe the most recent was the 2022 Braves had a stretch like this. So
well, they were the other team that did 3 or more home runs in 5 straight games.
Yeah, there's several teams tied for second with 5 straight.
Okay.
Yeah, the Orioles had done it in the past as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
God bless. There have been a lot of home runs recently, and it has been somewhat home run reliant. And it is a case of I think Jared Carabas put out a tweet yesterday like the Orioles are going to break the single season home run record, and there's nothing we can do about it. I don't know what to make of that. I really don't. It's hard to look at it as a negative when you're winning games. Now, the couple of games that you didn't win this weekend, I don't know. I'm glad that this team can hit a bunch of home runs. It's a fair argument for those of you that were opposed to Pete Alonso in the Would You Rather Wednesday scenario yesterday. Although, as I keep saying, with all due those of you that are trying to make Pete Alonso seem like he's redundant to what the Orioles have, you're insane. You're nuts. He ain't redundant. He's different. But I still understand. If you just say, hey, I think they've got enough offensively. I think they'd be okay if this is the majority of what they get, plus like a better version of Jackson Holiday moving forward. I'm okay with that thought process. But I do still think that I'd like to see them be more aggressive and put more innings together and not be as reliant on home runs.
They're 12th as a team, 13 stolen bases, 12th in baseball.
That doesn't seem that bad.
Reds have 34.
Wait, do you remember them stealing 13 bases?
Well, so do you want to try to guess the leaders?
In stolen bases for the
like
Orioles?
Which players have stolen bases? There's been 5 players that have stolen bases.
5 players have stolen at least 1 base.
Yes.
Gunnar.
Gunnar has the most, 4.
I'll say Mateo.
Mateo has 1.
How about Cedric?
Cedric has 3, yes. 2 more. Another player with 3.
Another player with 3. Oh, Cowser.
Colton Cowser has 3.
And the other one is please tell me it's something funny like, a double steal that I forgot about where like the back end was Adley Rutschman or something
no,
like that.
it was, he's not going to be known for stealing bases now or probably ever, but
okay.
like he'll steal a base every now and then.
Westberg?
Yes.
Okay.
Jordan Westberg.
I was between him and Hayes, but like Hayes just hasn't gotten on base. So
2 stolen bases for Westberg.
Kind of difficult in order to steal bases.
So the Reds and Nats have 34-33 respectively. They're like the top 2 far and away.
It's kind of surprising.
Everybody else is in the low 20s.
Just based on what we saw, it's kind of surprising the Brewers are not closer
They have 24.
to the top. Okay,
They're third.
Yeah. I don't know. I again, I don't have enough data to be able to have an adult conversation about this. And the Orioles are hitting plenty of home runs. And of course, you'd argue that as the air gets warmer, they'll be able to hit more. The ball will fly even more, and they'll hit even more home runs. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a problem to me. I had no problem with being asked the question, just because, yesterday they hit nothing. It was home runs, right? Like, that was how they scored all of their runs yesterday, was via home runs. And so, yeah, what happens if Anthony Santander doesn't hit that home run? Well, maybe you still hit the 2-run homer, the walk-off in the bottom of the ninth, and you come from behind and win. I don't know. But they didn't look like they were the at-bats were not great between Gunner's home run and Santander. Like, obviously, we're going to talk another.
Pablo Lopez was really
settled
good.
in nicely. Nicely. So, I just don't know. I wish I had a more adult thought about this topic, and I introduced it not having an answer to it. I don't. They're hitting a lot of home runs at the moment. That, again, to me, is a positive more than it's a negative.
I mean, it really.
I don't think Colton Cowser is going to hit as many home runs as he's hit during this stretch. I think he's more likely to be
He's not going to have 10 RBI in a 3-game stretch anymore.
Right. Oh, I think he's going to be an on-base guy, and I think he's going to help in that way moving forward. I think this is a bit of an anomaly in the power department from Colton Cowser, but I do think that he's going to be a productive hitter all around. So I think Jackson Holliday is going to be a more productive hitter and not likely going to be an all-or-nothing home run bat. I do think that it would be interesting, and maybe somebody has asked if, because of how much power, how much they believe guys are capable of doing, they are being less aggressive on the base paths, less aggressive in sending, less aggressive in.
We can't afford to have any.
Right, the next guy in the lineup is too good for us to run the risk of him not coming to the plate with a runner on base right now. Like, I just wonder. I'm wondering it out loud without having anything to back that up with, any data, any knowledge of it, or any question that's been asked. And I don't even know that they would answer that publicly because they wouldn't want to give away a thought process. But my pea brain, and admittedly not being able to watch every at-bat of the season because I have other jobs that require me to pay attention and have to watch distractedly sometimes, it has felt like there have been opportunities. I know our buddy Paul Valley was tweeting about it over the weekend. It certainly has felt like there have been opportunities for them to be more aggressive, and they've chosen not to. And I do wonder if that is a determined strategy from them to say, hey, we really like the totality of what we present offensively in this lineup at the moment, and we don't want to be uber aggressive. Although they've had Cedric attempt the bunt a couple of times.
Yeah, they haven't been caught stealing yet this season.
That's wild.
Yeah, so like maybe there is, like, that seems like there might really be something to that point then.
They've only
really
attempted,
picking and choosing.
Yeah, they've only attempted 13 times this season. They've attempted to steal a base. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the numbers would be for those other teams that you pointed out. Like,
let's see. Like the Reds are 34 for 42. The Red Sox are.
I get it. The Reds are loaded with speed.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like the Brewers are 24 for 28.
They're pretty effective.
Yeah, they're pretty effective.
Yeah.
Nats are 33 for 38. Like,
it's not
seems like every team's pretty smart, but like obviously the Reds are sending.
It seems like it's very difficult to throw someone out stealing a base anymore, which would be a great argument for why he should try to steal more bases. I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, man. It's, again, I apologize as a talk show host. I presented this without having an answer to the question.
Yeah, the Red Sox have been thrown out the most, and they only have 16. They're 16 for 25, so that's probably.
It's not bad. It's merely a theory, and it was merely a discussion that came up. So I decided to hold it publicly because that's what I do. I don't know what it is, and again, it's not a problem if they keep hitting all these home runs. And yesterday, if you want to say that the lack of, it was the only hit they had between the home runs was the infield hit, right, from Westberg?
Yeah.
That was it. They weren't. Jackson Holliday gave the one a ride, right? Like, that was pretty solid contact. But there wasn't even a whole lot of solid contact.
Yeah, Adley hit one because Austin Martin had that diving catch.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that was a nice catch. That was a very nice catch. But there wasn't a ton of solid contact between the two home runs. Mm-hmm. Like, very little. And the only hit was not solid contact. It was a nubber that worked out. Oh well, they hit enough home runs. All's good here. They sweep the Twins. They head to Kansas City this weekend for another tough series. All right, we're going to talk to Russell Dorsey here in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Atman's Deli, now open in Harbor Point. It's everything you love about the original Atman's Deli, which, of course, is everything. But now they also have a bar. You can hang out, watch games, just make it your neighborhood stop, and enjoy the delicious food that you've come to expect from Atman's Deli, like the corned beef piled high, the soups, the desserts. Make a night of it. Stop in before or after any game, atmansdeli.com, to find out all the daily specials at the brand new Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. Love them. So glad they got a full location, plus the pickle bar. I didn't even mention the pickle bar, which I love so badly. All right, so yes, the Orioles did not move into first place because the Yankees did rally, but they are right back into within a half a game of first place, 12-6 now on the season after sweeping the Twins this week. Joining us now, although we have to admit that he might be a little bit of a curse because in games not on Apple TV Plus of late, the Orioles, they were 7-1 in those other games. So I don't know what to make of it. It didn't go well on Friday. He's part of the studio crew on Apple TV plus Yahoo Sports. You see him on MLB Network. He is Russell Dorsey, and he's with us once again here on GCR. Russell, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you as always, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
No problem. What's going on?
Everything is good, right? Like the Orioles just swept the Twins. Life is, back within a half a game of first place. Life is. What would we complain about here, Russell?
Listen, I think of all the fan bases in Major League Baseball, like you look at the White Sox and what they got going on, you look at the A's and the Rockies. The Orioles are doing just fine. There's a lot of good things happening in Baltimore, and I know O's fans are very excited right now.
Like I asked this question, Russell. Like at some point, do you look at the Orioles and say, this, as constructed, this is legitimately a team that is good enough today to be able to win the World Series, or are there still things that you look at and say, I think they're close. They could still maybe use this or have something go right between now and October for me to feel more confident about that?
It is a very good roster, right? Like, and I don't just say that haphazardly. Like, you look up and down the lineup with some of the players that they have on the roster, players who are still in AAA right now because the roster at the big league level is so good. It is one of the better rosters in the big leagues, for sure. I think for me, when I look at the Orioles, do I think this is a team that has a shot to win the World Series? I do. I have them going to the World Series in my preseason prediction at Yahoo. I have them facing the Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately, I have them losing to the Atlanta Braves, but I do think getting to the World Series is a definite possibility. When I look at what this roster needs, I would look around and I'd say, okay, the starting pitching is a question from the pure standpoint of, are you going to have enough healthy starting pitching in August, September, and hopefully October for the Orioles to push through in the postseason and try to get to the World Series? That would be my biggest thing. It's like, all right, when we get to June, and we get to July and get closer to the deadline, who are the names out there that you might look at and say, okay, if Bradish comes back slow or God forbid he gets hurt again, is there somebody we could target in the market to bring in with Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez to say, okay, we have a dominant rotation that we can feel confident with in the playoffs?
And I guess the second level of that question is it time, right? Like they did this with Corbin Burns for a one-year rental, and so this year kind of feels like it has to matter, Like maybe Corbin Burns ultimately ends up deciding he wants to be in Baltimore long-term, but everything that he said so far would make it suggest like they will have a 1 in 30 chance of that being the case.
And listen, that happens. That happens, right? Like you
100%.
As a player, you earn that right to go to free agency. But at the same time, there are also 29 teams that don't have Corbin Burns. So you have to kind of strike while the iron's hot with Burns in that rotation and also say, hey, let's hedge and add for this year and maybe beyond as well.
So in that way, does it feel like it is the time to say, hey, if that requires being aggressive, even again for a rental, like that really, it looks, and I know we're still a couple of months away from this, so I understand that things can change, but given the trajectory that things are on, does it feel like it's time to say, hey, even if it's another rental, you've got Go. It's time. Go for it. Don't worry about 3 years from now. Like, go for it. Make that move in order to bolster your opportunity to do it today.
1,000%. And I think you know this from watching baseball for a long time, and so do other, people who watch the game. Nothing's promised, ever. You could do everything right. You can tear it down to the studs like the Orioles did. You can rebuild it. You can have the number one farm system in baseball. You can have those guys play well at the big league level if they get there. And you have your season where it is time to strike. And that wasn't last year for the Orioles. Like, they kind of, made some ancillary moves on the perimeters. This year is the year that you say, okay, we have a roster that we're confident that can compete not only in the AL East, but in the American League and has the potential to win the World Series. And it's not promised next year, right? Like, you would like to think so if you do everything right and those players continue to excel and grow and they have upward trajectories. But the Orioles aren't the first team that have had a roster of talented, up-and-coming position players. And look at the Chicago Cubs, right? That's something, a cautionary tale I use all the time. They had everything go right 2015, win the World Series in 2016, and then they never got back. You look at that team, and people say, oh, they're probably going to make it back to the World Series 2 or 3 times.
Right.
Never happened. So when you get that opportunity and you have that roster you feel like can compete not only in a division but across the board, you got to give that roster an opportunity to go out and win it.
Russell Dorsey is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. We're talking about the Orioles this morning here on GCR. Russell, is the lineup as constructed? Like, they're hitting a ton of home runs at the moment. Is pitching the only problem? Could they still use some sort of – like, I keep looking and saying to myself, boy, I like all of these players, but somebody brought up the name Pete Alonso to me the other day, and I said, oh my God, Pete Alonso. Like, oh, man, I would be interested as much as I love Ryan Mountcastle. Like, that's just – that dude's different. That's one of those big hairy guys the Buck Showalter used to talk about. Like, do you feel like it's just pitching, or do you still feel like they could add more to fortify that on the lineup side of things?
As of right now, I really like the Orioles lineup. Like, I love Gunnar Henderson as a player. I think he does so much stuff right. And I think when you look at him being able to set the table for that lineup and also be able to have the power of a 3-hitter, a 4-hitter, if you wanted to move things around, if you're Brandon Hyde, they can do that. Like, they have that flexibility. I think this is one of those things where you wait and see what this lineup is doing Memorial Day.
Sure.
Right? That's when you're probably like, okay, maybe if Ryan O'Hearn isn't swinging the bat as well as he is right now, if Ryan Mountcastle isn't swinging the bat as well as he is right now, then maybe you say, okay, is there an upgrade to be made? But with what you're getting from Ryan O'Hearn, with what you're getting from Ryan Mountcastle, with what you're getting from Colton Cowser, who's been fantastic so far. Like, there are very few things. It would be nitpicky if I said, oh, this is the reason that the O's need to make a move. I just like the roster as it is right now. And maybe things change as guys go through the ebbs and flows of the season. But for right now, I would be okay if they didn't make any moves in this lineup as of right now.
So walk me through where you are with the Jackson Holiday thing, right? Like, when do we talk about it? Because we all know it's not today. We all know that you were signing up for there were going to be growing pains. But we also know, again, in the context of this team trying to win a World Series, like, a lot of people compared it to Gunnar Henderson from a year ago, where he struggled for the better part of 2 months before he finally turned it on. I get it, but I don't think at the time in April and May of last year, I don't think anybody was genuinely believing the Orioles were trying to win a World Series. So what is the timeline? Like, when do we start to measure what it is that Jackson Holiday is doing and say, hey, if you're still hitting like 100, you can't continue to just give at-bats to someone because of what you think they're going to be long-term?
I am fine with them giving Jackson Holiday at-bats. The one area where I'm like, all right, let's just keep an eye on it is the strikeouts. Simply because that's not who he is as a player, right? Like, he's not a guy that he's a guy that commands the strike zone very well for his age. Like, he does it at an elite level. And the strikeouts are up there. Look, like 14 strikeouts and 25 ABs, it's a lot. I don't think Jackson Holiday should be playing at AAA Norfolk. I really don't. Like, that's a big league talent. And I think the Orioles know exactly what he is as a player. And sure, everybody is not going to come up and be, this calm, relaxed player that is been there and done that every young player is different. And while we've seen Jackson Holliday be the kid that, grew up in clubhouses and he's been there before and he's prepared, I think all those things are still true. At the end of the day, he's still a kid, right? It's still a kid that knows the expectations that are on him and still a kid that wants to do well. And sometimes when you come up and you don't have that instant success, that instant gratification, you start to press a little bit. So I'm not concerned about Jackson Holliday. Yes, you have to watch the at-bats, make sure he's not getting outside of himself. And if it continues over the next couple of weeks, maybe you get, Jordan Westberg some more ADs, but that's a guy that is going to be very important to their future. And like you mentioned with Gunnar Henderson had his ebbs and flows, had his ups and downs, and look at the player that they have right now. So I think this is one of those trust the process type of moments for the Orioles, because outside of that, everything is going to plan for that team.
100%. And I'm not, when I ask this question again, I'm not saying I just feel like at some point you still have to say, hey, but we got to put the guys that are on the field that are giving us the best chance to win, which to me was the argument for why Jackson Holliday needed to be here to begin with, right? Like that
right.
You couldn't justify that. Great guy, but you couldn't justify that Tony Kemp getting at bats for this team was the best chance of giving you the opportunity to win. I guess, Russell, the other part is that, like, I don't fear the idea that if at some point you do find yourself saying maybe he's got to go back down for a little bit. I don't fear that with a player. Like, I get that you don't want that to be the case, and hopefully over the course of the next week or two, Jackson Holliday is exactly the guy that we think that he's going to be. But if it were, again, weeks from now, to get to that point where you just look and say, hey, he's pressing, it's not working, I don't fear that. Like, I was reminded recently Alex Rodriguez got sent down once. Like, I just don't fear that, like, struggle is part of baseball. Like, that's part of the deal. Right. I don't fear that ruins someone if that ends up being the case in a few weeks.
Baseball is definitely very hard. I do think people forget that sometimes. Like, if baseball was easy, I would be playing in the big leagues. But I'm not. I talk about it on TV. So I think it's very important to keep in mind who the player is. Like, I think you're alluding to this too. Like, I don't worry about confidence with Jackson Holliday. I think Jackson Holliday is fully aware of who he is as a player and what he will be as a player. And so, no, if they ended up having to send him back down to AAA, do I think he would be, spiral out of? No, I don't. But also, I think if he was at the big league level and he still scuffle, but you're starting to see him kind of break out of it, I think you afford him that opportunity as long as it's not costing the team to be able to figure out where things are going wrong, where he wants to change things, and let him figure it out. So, I know sometimes people are always concerned of you don't want to kill a kid's confidence in terms of struggling at the big league level. But I do think you have to allow, like, if you're a parent and you want your kids to learn, right, you have to allow them to go out into the world, make mistakes, and grow from it. Same thing is true if we're talking about a prospect in Major League Baseball. Like, there's going to be great times. There's going to be bad times. And how do you handle when you get punched in the mouth and you have to get back up?
All right, I want to touch on a couple other teams around baseball real quick, if I could, Russell, before we let you go. One, we're going to see him this weekend again. How real is this that what we're seeing from the Kansas City Royals to start the year?
Yeah, I was watching them this week when I was at home, in Chicago, and that's a good baseball team. It's a good baseball team. It's a team that has really strong starting pitching with Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo has been fantastic for them, Brady Singer. And then you have a superstar shortstop in Bobby Wood Jr., who is as talented as we have in the game right now. That's a really good baseball team. And I'm actually really excited to watch these two young teams go at it head-to-head. Obviously, the Orioles are a little bit more advanced in their window than the Royals. The Royals are kind of figuring out, okay, we can do some things. But it should be very exciting. It is one of those young athletic teams that has some players with a lot of skill, and I think it's going to be a fun series.
And then on the flip side, what do you make of the Astros? Like, I keep thinking to myself, they're the Astros. There's just no way this is their story. But, like, I don't know. Does it feel like something's wrong there?
Yeah, it's just not clicking for them right now. You do have to give them the benefit of the doubt because they've been there so many times. And they've had struggles where you're like, it's over. And then here they come back again, back in the World Series. So if I always use Memorial Day as a barometer of, like, when we start to say, okay, what's going on around the game? Who should we be concerned about? Who's really killing it and taking off? If on Memorial Day they are still this team, I would have concerns. I think the other part of it for me, you don't know what the status of Framber Valdez is.
Yeah.
You know, a guy who is on the IL with elbow inflammation, which you're hearing a lot about in the game right now. If he's not able to return and be their ace, and I think it's unfair at 40 years old to always count on Justin Verlander to be the savior, I think that team's going to have some issues. But I'd say let's wait until May, and if they're still this team, I think they have some real issues.
What all can we plug for you? Where are we seeing you next? Just give me the whole rundown.
Yeah, I'm on MLB Network today on Off Base. That is at 4:00 Eastern. You can read all my work at yahoosports.com. And then you can catch me Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV+.
At Russ_Dorsey1 is how you follow him on Twitter. Russell Dorsey, really appreciate it, man. Thanks for taking the time for us this morning. Let's chat again real soon, all right?
My guy, I appreciate it anytime.
Thanks, Russell. Russell Dorsey with us here on GCR. And again, I asked this question, not trying to put like an expiration date on it with Jackson Holliday, because to be clear, like a lot of people would say, hey, we think that some of the swings have been better recently, including the one that he drove out to right field yesterday. It's not saying, hey, if he's not hitting this by this date, he's got to go. It's just that I want to hold the same standard to Jackson Holliday that I held in order to have Jackson Holliday. The standard to me is you got to be helping. And there is an argument to be made for, yeah, but if the team's winning anyway, even if he's struggling, you ride it. That does matter. I agree with that. It does matter that even if someone's struggling, but the team's winning, then you ride it out and you don't panic about it and life goes on. But still, there has to be a point at which you say, if you're not helping us win, we still have to value needing to have someone here who can. And I don't say that when somebody hears that it's the pea-brain thing. Oh, so you're saying Drew was doing this bit yesterday. I don't know what that date is, and I don't know what the number is, and I don't know exactly. I hate saying it's a feel thing. It's easy to say right now, it doesn't feel like Jackson Holliday is hurting the Orioles. It's because they've won 7 of their last 9 games. 8 of their last.
Yeah, that's right.
8 of their last 10? Was that what it was?
7 of 9, yeah.
No, because they lost the Pirates, the final finale of that series.
Yeah.
So 7 of their last 9. So it doesn't feel like he's hurting. But at the same time, would they have won 8 of their last 9? And I get it, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds absurd, but like you have to have these conversations. It has to. Is this person helping us? Because let Jackson Holliday struggle so that he might be great on the one that there is. I get it. The trust the process thing that Russell Dorsey's talking about. I get it. And yet at the same time, the process has to involve winning as much as you can right now. It's a measuring thing. I am not saying that those of you that are screaming that Jackson Holliday's an automatic out, he's got to go. We do this. We treat baseball like it's football. Like every one game matters significantly. Whereas on the flip side, we know that Jackson Holliday has been here. What he's done so far has been not even quite the equivalent of one NFL game. And you would never react to a rookie in the NFL and say, that was one bad game, he's got to go. You would never do that. That would be crazy.
Yeah, and I guess it's going to be different. I feel like we can't really talk about it until he does start costing them games. Like the 2 games that they have lost, it's because the Brewers scored like 10 runs.
Yeah, they scored an S ton of runs, no question about it. And I don't think that's the measurement. I don't think the measurement is directly saying this one thing cost somebody a game. I don't think that's it. I still think it's the same thing. I don't know that Tony Kemp cost them a game either. It's just the argument of, is what this person is bringing to the table, is it good enough for us to be winning with? And if you're winning in spite of it, you don't hide behind the, yeah, but we're winning as just being the simple argument. To the point, a year ago, Gunnar Henderson was still getting on base, was seeing pitches well, was playing high-level defense. Those things didn't matter as you were writing it out. And, again, you weren't really visioning yourself as being a World Series winner at the time. You were in a much better place to just say, ride it as long as we need to ride it. I would be inclined to want to do the same with Jackson Holiday and maybe to use winning as the shield for it. Like, hey, if you're winning at a high clip, then use that as the shield for why we can ride it out. But at some point, they lose 3 out of 4 games, something like that, and Jackson Holiday is still hitting. I mean, I'm really talking about the low end of this. I'm not talking about if Jackson Holiday is hitting 200. Right now, he's got to go on a hot streak to hit 200. I'm talking about if Jackson Holiday is still getting a hit in
1 of every 20 at-bats.
18, 17, 1 out of every 16, something like that, then it requires you to have the conversation. You have to. It would be dereliction of duty.
Yeah, and
to not.
If Connor Norby wasn't right there.
Yes, that's part of it too, 100%. That you got somebody, and I get it. It's awkward because he's playing in the outfield. He's not playing at second base right now. Although, who's been playing second base since Jackson? Now that I say that, who's been playing second base since Jackson Holiday got called up? I stopped paying attention to this topic. I assume that they still have Norby running because he's not going to. The argument being we don't think he's going to be a big league second baseman because we think we know who our big league second baseman is. So I'm guessing they still have him playing in the outfield. But I genuinely don't know who else they would have been having play second base in the meantime. But to the point, you could also have Westberg play second base and have either Norby or even Kobe Mayo at that point.
John Means ERA is 18-4-1.
Yeah, it was really bad yesterday. Yesterday it was really. I think he got 1 out and gave up 5
He got
runs.
1 or 2 outs. Yeah,
it was brutal.
Norby was leading off and playing second yesterday.
So has he been back to playing second regularly since?
I will try to get an
pull
answer.
Up his register
yeah,
field.
Means only got 1 out yesterday.
Yeah, it's really bad.
5 hits, 1 walk.
Really,
2 homers.
Really bad. Here. Come up with it.
Yeah, I guess you're going to beat me.
Well, it just depends on how quickly I can quickly fielding tab. All right, 2024, he has played now 4 games at second base. So it doesn't look like he's been moved back to second base primarily, although maybe it's the last 4. Maybe that's the case. Maybe they are preparing the emergency plan for what if something goes wrong. I don't know. I'm not telling you there's a date. I'm not telling you that I'm panicked about it. I'm telling you that, right now, I get it. You continue to ride with it. But I don't think if it's this bad, I don't think you can wait until June. If it's bad but not this bad, right? If he's hitting a $186, that means that he's been a bit more productive. There's a trend. But if it's this bad, you can't. You can't just hold out June in hopes that it's going to turn at some point. Again, if it's that, but he's getting on base, it's still measured to me. There's got to be signs of progress. Or at some point you have to say, we've got to say winning is more important. All right, today's show is also brought to you by the Green Turtle. What's going on at the Green Turtle?
Free $10 bets today and every Thursday over at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. That's right, they have sports betting now, and it is the ultimate destination for game day excitement. Great food and live in-person betting, so be sure to check out the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton and go pick up your free bet so that you can make some money while enjoying some food and some sports tonight at the Green Turtle.
All right, when we come back in, we'll talk a little bit about the NBA play-in tournament, and also still to come this morning, we'll do some fighting words, and we'll go down to Bowie to chat with TT Bowens. That's all on the way. It is a Thursday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether you're celebrating a special milestone, entertaining clients, or simply enjoying a night out, count on Ruth's Chris to deliver you the finest steaks, the best service, and a level of hospitality that has made Ruth's Chris one of the most revered names in steaks since 1965. Make your reservation now at ruthschris.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Jeremy Kahn here. The ultimate sports betting experience in Maryland is at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook. Join me at either location in Canton or in Towson and place your bets in person and be a part of the action. It's the best in-class sports wagering experience, complete with the ultimate TV package, ensuring you can catch every game all day, every day. Their state-of-the-art facilities bring Las Vegas energy right here to Maryland just in time for postseason football. So visit the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton and Towson and elevate your game day experience and hang out with me to bet, watch, and win at the Turtle.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Thursday edition of the program. Don't forget County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is your home for everything you need to know about high school sports. Here in Maryland in the spring, baseball, softball, boys and girls lacrosse. Scores, schedules, rankings, pick 'em, find it all. CountySports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. So last night, the 76ers rally was ugly at the half. They had scored 39 points in the first half. It looked bad. But they do ultimately rally, and they beat the Heat, so they're in as the 7 seed. Meanwhile, the Heat will have to play the Bulls And the bad news is that apparently Jimmy Butler suffered a pretty significant injury last night, like played through it apparently, but looks like he's going to be done. And that's bad on two levels. One, because you get robbed of playoff Jimmy Butler, and playoff Jimmy Butler is a fun part of our basketball viewing experience every April through June. So that sucks for basketball fans to lose Jimmy Butler, and particularly playoff Jimmy Butler. It loses one of the storylines. Like, as much as it seems like the Celtics have been anointed in the East, there is, of course, but you never know if Miami might be able to make a run again because they were in this exact spot a year ago. Well, this probably extinguishes any opportunity for Miami to be relevant, and there's nothing that would get you to believe that Chicago could be relevant. So, like a Miami-Boston series.
Kobe White's pretty good.
I don't disagree that Kobe White's pretty good. A Miami-Boston series with a healthy Jimmy Butler is real, like must-watch type of stuff. I get it. Boston probably wins the series, but we have seen this before. Miami being it now, if they win a Miami-Boston series with no Jimmy Butler is not particularly compelling television. A Boston-Chicago series is also not particularly compelling television. So that's a bummer. New York-Philadelphia, on paper, does shape up like that's a pretty compelling television series. And the funny thing about the Sixers is like there was a lot of consternation amongst Philadelphia fans, right? Like the argument, it's very difficult for them to watch the success that Jimmy Butler has found in Miami while they chose to ride with Ben Simmons. It's very difficult for Sixers fans because as much as trust the process became like a part of the cultural zeitgeist, you're getting to the edge of, but what really was the process? Like, what did that do for us? We trusted it. Now, what do we have to show for it? And you're getting to the edge of that thing. And so you can feel like this. There are people in basketball that are like, hey, the Sixers could be a live 7 seed. Like, they're a 7 seed, but they have Joel Embiid. They're good. And the Knicks, while they've been winning games, they have been seriously banged up. The Sixers have a shot in that series, and then if they get hot, who knows what might happen. But in Philadelphia, their fans are like, yeah, we don't want to hear that. We're not feeling great. It's sort of the way that I feel as like a Suns fan. We're like, don't tell me the Suns are a live 6 seed in the West. They stink. They're mid. Like, they're infuriating.
Kevin Durant.
You're right about that.
Bradley Beal.
They've had those, maybe.
Devin Booker.
Yes, that part for sure.
Whoever the Eastern European is, they have now Nurkic. No.
They do. Yeah, they do have Nurkic and Grayson Allen, who it is the most painful thing on the face of the planet as a Suns fan to acknowledge that Grayson Allen has had a very good season for them. God, I hate that.
Yeah, did he have a 50-point game?
Did he? I don't remember that, but he's had a hell of a season. They just gave him a big extension, but they kind of had to. By the way, try understanding the NBA rules. Somebody tweeted out for me the other day, like the list of why the Suns had to extend Grayson Allen, and it's like they would not have been able to sign another player for more than the league minimum because they're going to go over this apron and then pay this tax threshold, and like trying to figure out how a team is allowed to construct a roster. My God, you might need a PhD in order to be a basketball general manager. Jesus. I think football is difficult enough. Like, all of the rules for putting together an NBA roster are insane. It was weird, like, because I've got a bunch of Sixers fans in my life because, again, there's no team here. So a couple of you decided to be Wizards fans and other people decided to be Sixers fans, and I get it. And I also feel like it's sort of like a north and south of Baltimore thing. Like, people that are to the north and east of Baltimore are more inclined to be Sixers fans. People that are to the south of Baltimore, maybe not inclined, but they begrudgingly accept the idea that if they want to have a team, they could say they're a Wizards fan. There's still not many of those. I'm talking to Sixers fans in my life, and they are, like, panicked. They are in a place of They can't enjoy this. There's nothing about the playoffs they can enjoy. Unless they make a deep run, and then maybe they'll be inclined to join
They lose,
at that
it's a
point.
failure.
It's not just that it's a failure this year, but then you start to really say,
the last decade.
was the entirety of the last decade a failure? Was everything about trusting the process and how they bought it? Like, the thing that we talked about as Orioles fans, I remember saying at the beginning of the Orioles rebuild, they needed to come up with a catchphrase. They needed to have a hashtag. Because watching how successful it was in Philadelphia, and, like, kids using trust the process in their promposals, and, like, the way it became a part of life in Philadelphia surrounding. The 76ers got new life out of trust the process, and they stunk. But to what end? If you get to this point and you don't even have a trip to the finals to show for it, it becomes very difficult for people to say, yeah, it was worth trusting the process. Remind me, they've been to an Eastern Conference final, right?
Yeah.
No, during this run, they've been to an Eastern Conference final, right? My God, if it's not even,
I don't know.
That's the funny part. Like, I'm saying it out loud. Like, they definitely made a trip to the Eastern Conference finals, right? And now I'm saying to myself, am I sure of that? I feel like they did a couple years ago, right?
They they lost in the conference semis in 18. Lost in the conference
God, they
semis
haven't even made an
again.
Eastern Conference final.
Wow. Yeah, they lost.
They
in the
haven't
conference
even made an
semis.
Eastern Conference final in the trust the process era.
5 of the last 6 years they've lost.
They
in the
haven't
conference semis.
made a conference final. So if you get to this,
But Embiid won an MVP.
right, that does make all the difference in the world. You're talking about, yes, a decade where you don't even have a trip to a conference final. There is no process. There never was a process. You got a hell of a player out of it, and he's fun. But, boy, it's tough talking to my friends that are Sixers fans. Like, they'll hear other people want to say, dude, we really like the Sixers' chances against the Knicks, and then if they beat them, they got a real chance to make some noise. And, like, my Sixers fan friends are just like, yeah, whatever. Like, they are on pins and needles, man. I don't know why the NBA did the bit where both of the play-in games are tomorrow night instead of spreading them out so that the Western Conference game would be tonight. Like, there is nothing to watch tonight.
Nothing.
This is the most abysmal night in the history of television. There's nothing to watch. I guess there are still some things to be determined in the final night of the NHL regular season. I think that I am to understand that not everything is.
Maybe seeding.
I think the Eastern Conference is locked. I think
Okay.
the Western Conference might not be.
Like the 7 or 8 seed could flip.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that might be like.
Dude, it is the worst. And, of course, I've got
Everyone can crowd around the television and watch Young Sheldon.
I have no work tonight. So, like, I'm going to be home. It's the only night of the week that I'm going to be home. And there is nothing to watch. Why would they have not made the Pelicans Kings game tonight? Which I get, on paper, does not sound like must-watch television.
Well,
like
I
do.
Zion might not play.
Yeah,
so.
it doesn't. But at least it's something.
Right.
Why wouldn't they put that on tonight? That seems very poor in the decision-making process.
I agree. That is, it makes no sense.
Why would you leave it?
There's like one baseball game on.
And
after 7 o'clock.
Thursday night is a better TV night historically. That's the reason why NBC always put all their, the Seinfelds, all the shows they cared the most about were always on Thursday. ER, because it's thought of as, I think Sunday and Thursday are thought of as the two best TV audience nights of the week. So weird.
Yeah, now they're competing with the PFL tomorrow night.
Right? Yeah. How are you going to win that? Well, you're really competing because people go out on Friday night. They do things on Friday night. It's bizarre. And you still would have had a game tomorrow night. You still would have had the Heat, which, again, doesn't look like appointment viewing now with no Jimmy Butler, but you still would have had Heat Bulls tomorrow night that you could just bump back to like 8:30 and start it then. Start this one tonight at 9 and start that one, or I guess this one's in New Orleans, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it would probably have to be at 8:30 as well. Maybe they could
doesn't
start
matter when it will start.
I guess
It's
it
the only
started.
thing on.
If it started at 9, it'd be 8 o'clock New Orleans time, so that's fine. Yeah, it started at 9 tonight and start the game tomorrow night at 8:30. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are we doing? You know what it might be? It might be this TNT maybe committed to airing the final night of the hockey regular season, and TNT has the right to the Western Conference. So they said, sorry, we can't do it on Thursday. That really might be what this is coming down to, is that like they committed to airing Is there hockey on TNT? I guess I did tubular. Maybe I should be the one checking.
I should have an answer though for you.
Hang on, I can tell you in 2 seconds. No, the hockey's on ESPN tonight. I got nothing. It makes no sense. Stupid NBA. The hell are you doing? We as a country could use something to watch.
And I
this
definitely
evening.
would have bet on it tonight too.
Yeah, what are you betting on? What are you betting on instead this evening?
Nothing. I guess I'm probably I will. I'll call it a responsible evening. I guess.
Responsible evening. None of this would matter if the Orioles were playing, but they're off too, which makes it so much worse. All right, we're in hour number 2 of GCR. Today's show brought to you by the new print issue of Press Box, which is available for free right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Luke Jackson has this month's cover story. It's all about Grayson Rodriguez as the Orioles looking like maybe they perhaps are coming into their next homegrown ace. A lot of stuff in there as far as not just the people that have helped Grayson along his path and how he's gotten to this point, but also on top of that, analysts like John Smoltz is featured in this story. His father chimes in on that story. So it's a very good cover story from Luke Jackson. You can go check that out. Also, more celebration of the great Lefty Driesell to be found in this issue. So go get that right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of those hundreds of locations around town where you find a Press Box. The Ravens held some press availability yesterday, and I don't know if it was always like this. It's weird how little juice I feel like there is for Ravens offseason. Like there's very little to talk. It's great to hear from these guys, and you're glad they're available, but like there's just not a lot pressing to talk about. Derrick Henry already had a press conference. Like it's not like life has changed all that much for Roquan Smith in the last couple of weeks. But I do appreciate the fact that they do make the players available, and that's a good thing. There was one clip that seemed to be discussed a bit yesterday, and it did come from Roquan Smith. The players are in the building doing some workout stuff. This is not on the field stuff. This is not OTAs. That comes after the draft. But they're in there in the building, and so they're here. Let's make them available to the media. And Roquan Smith was asked about the addition of Derrick Henry. And his answer alluded to something that a lot of us have been discussing for some time. This is Roquan Smith asked about the Ravens bringing in Derrick Henry yesterday.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I think it's going to make us stick to what we do. Having a guy like him, anytime you need a play with him and Lamar back there, I think it's going to be crucial. I'm excited. It's going to open up a lot for everyone. Going against the guy, I know the type of threat that he opposed to other defense. So it's going to be scary. I'm excited to see. And as I would say, I'm glad that I'm on the defensive side and watching those guys, cheering them on, play in and play out. Told a couple of my friends in the offseason, maybe I'll have to get some popcorn.
We've definitely gone
sideline,
past the point
and,
that was relevant in this time. I
didn't
realize how
I
long
think
the clip
it's a
was. That's on
great
me.
piece,
Play just the
added
first
to us, and
5
it's gonna-
seconds of it, because that's the money part of it. Play that one more time, because the part that everybody was reacting to was literally the very start of what Roquan said yesterday. So this is, again, his response to the arrival of Derrick Henry.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. I think it's going to make us stick to what we do.
That's it.
Having a guy like
That's
him, anytime.
I think it's going to make us stick to what we do. That's the part of the response that everyone was reacting to yesterday, which feels like what we're going to be thinking about until the Ravens play a football game again. It's everything that anyone has asked me about what I think of the Ravens offseason, and talking to some of the folks that I have bumped into in the last couple of weeks inside the building, talking to a couple of players that I've had conversation with, everyone is as confused as you are. That's the funny, and I think Roquan Smith is saying it without saying it, right? Like that. At no point has anyone made peace with what happened in the AFC Championship game. No one.
And that carries probably into why, there's just no buzz about wanting to talk, hear what these guys are going to say, because no one's going to have an answer.
Like, no one's going to have an answer. And until they play another football game, the only thing we can continue, if you care about the Ravens, you can say whatever you want about, I'm interested in who's going to play right tackle next year. I'm interested in, you can say all of that. And trust me, I am interested in the draft because you're getting new football players. The draft is perfect for fans of a team. It's a guarantee that you're going to have a new player, multiple new players on your team with their own stories, and they're interesting. So the draft is interesting, but separated from the draft, every time you talk about the Baltimore Ravens since February, it's been with the same context. Dude, what the F happened? And no one is okay and everyone is as puzzled as you are, except for maybe John Harbaugh and Todd Monken, or maybe they are too. Maybe they would say, I don't know how that got away. I don't know if you got the truth serum in them, how they would talk about it. They're going to present publicly one way, but I don't know what they would say if you would speak honestly about, hey, what happened there. It might be that they would say, hey, that wasn't the plan, and honestly, the quarterback checked out. We gave him too much freedom. I don't know. I don't know what they would say. What I know is no one that I have talked to has felt okay about it, and every single one of them has echoed the sentiments of, dude, why did we get away from who we are? What the hell were we doing? How did this make sense? And so every time someone tries to talk to me about Derrick Henry, hey, what do you think about Derrick Henry? I'm like, yeah, I'm good with it. I said that a million times. It's Derrick Henry we're talking about. How could you not be good with Derrick Henry? How could you possibly be opposed to the idea of Derrick Henry being on your football team? Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson sharing a backfield. That's what Roquan Smith is being asked about, yes. And he goes on to explain all of it, right? How could you possibly be down on that? But then the other part of your brain is right, but we don't think that was the problem.
And if this means you're going to miss out on maybe, a long-term tackle answer or
a long-term and that's not what Roquan Smith, I think, was addressing yesterday. But sure, right. There's a part of all of us that says, by the way, if you missed it yesterday, J.K. Dobbins did officially sign with the Chargers, so he joins the parade of former Ravens that have gone out there with Joe Ortiz, and particularly in the backfield, he and Gus Edwards will now again be sharing a backfield together, which is wild. I mean, that really is. Imagine that working out.
I wonder how their media's going. I wonder how many times they're going to say, purple, something like they're just going to drop Ravens-isms in there.
They're 100%. Play like a...
the Chargers.
Play like a Charvin. I guess the way they're going to go about saying it. It's the difficulty of all of this. Yes, you're excited about Derrick Henry. It's like Rita says whenever it comes up. Are they going to give him the ball? That's the way that she's looking at it. I'll tell you if I'm excited about him when I find out if they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And this thing that we're all convincing ourselves of, we're saying, well, now that you have Derrick Henry, they're going to have to give him the ball. It just sounds like we're talking about toddlers. You got to eat your vegetables, so we better put them in a puree so they don't look like vegetables. You got to eat your vegetables, so we better cover them in cheese so you'll eat your vegetables. This sounds so crazy to me that we've accepted. It's like what Roquan is saying there sounds nuts to me. Maybe it'll get us to stick to who we are. Maybe. But why weren't you doing it before? Why did you need to cover the vegetables in cheese in order to know you needed to eat your vegetables? I just feel like you shouldn't need a block of Velveeta in order to be able to be willing to eat a piece of broccoli. It's a complete meal. We need to eat all of it, including the broccoli. Well, we better be able to cover it. Just smother it in cheese sauce. What? Yeah, trust me, we won't eat the vegetables otherwise. Well, you're a 40-year-old man. You need You need cheese in order to be able to, like, eat a carrot? You got to cover it in brown sugar or else you refuse to eat a carrot? That's what it sounds like when we say this out loud. And it makes it, like, I have less faith in it. Like, if that really is the story, we better go get Derrick Henry so we won't get away from running the ball. Holy F, none of these people can be in charge. If you need to have Derrick Henry in order to know that you need to run the ball, when all you're doing is succeeding running the ball, how are we capable of putting one foot in front of the other? Which, again, doesn't mean I'm opposed to Derrick Henry. I like Derrick Henry. I'm not sure if you've heard, he's Derrick Henry. I still don't know if that was the best way for the Ravens to go about spending their money this offseason. I think there's room, although I get it. It's a one-year deal. Essentially, it's more or less a one-year deal. And the argument is you can never really have a bad one-year deal. It's not a true one-year deal, but it can work out to be a one-year deal. It's just every time I hear that, I just keep thinking to myself, like, this is really where we are? It's good to have Derrick Henry because maybe we'll remember that we should run the ball sometimes. The hell? What? People were sharing that video again of Odell Beckham talking to Lamar Jackson in the AFC Championship game, the Wired video that we never really reacted too much on the show because I didn't really feel like reliving the AFC Championship game all that much. But like Odell Beckham essentially urging Lamar to take off more. And I wish I could remember what the quote was because it was something like, oh, damn it. It's going to drive me nuts. Oh, I hate when I try to flip over to another topic and I've already forgotten.
Oh,
I'll
try to find it.
But what he said, it was like so profound. Here it is. You change the whole dynamic of the game when you take off. We got to get some S going on, like what the F is going on. You change the whole dynamic of the game when you take off. Odell Beckham gets it. It's not a bad thing. It's never been a bad thing. However, the thought process has been poisoned to make it seem like it's a bad thing that Lamar Jackson runs is something that I will study one day down the road. I'm going to be a 70-year-old man, and I'm going to say, I want to figure out how this happened, how we convinced ourselves that Lamar Jackson running the ball was like a problem. How did this start? Where did it start? How did no one ever step in and say, Because what Odell Beckham said is exactly right. People lose their ass. And again, that's part of the reason why we want to be excited about Derrick Henry, right? The idea is you try to stack the box to stop Derrick Henry, here's Lamar Jackson to the outside. But what if Lamar doesn't want to run? Then, yes, you would still like to hope that the stacked boxes present better options for Lamar throwing the ball, too.
And hopefully Isaiah Likely and
yes,
Mark Andrews
100%.
And Flowers and Marcus Rosemy Jackson are all open.
Or whoever it might be. Like, you hope that's the case, but I'm just so confused by all of it. Like, it's so puzzling to me. It is a riddle wrapped in a conundrum, wrapped in a why you get away from running the ball to begin with and why it doesn't feel like Lamar Jackson wants to run the ball. I don't get it. I'll never understand it. And what Odell said to me is the definition of this. Stop caring about what other people think about you running because we see what happens the moment you start running. It changes the dynamic of the game. Teams don't know what to do. So do it. And so, yeah. NFL.com, I think it was Judy Batista this week, did a column about the hierarchy of the AFC at this point and why, the Chiefs are the team to beat because they're the team to beat. That's just the way that it goes. But then she had a tier below the Chiefs, and she still had the Ravens ranked as the top amongst that tier. If I remember correctly, it went Ravens, Bengals, Texans were the next three. And Reed and I talked about it on the radio show the other night, and I do still think the Ravens are probably the biggest threat. Probably the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC. It's almost like they've got Lamar Jackson, and so, he's the reigning MVP, so you show deference to that. If you were to rank teams today, you should rank the Ravens as being second because they were the team that was the best in the regular season a year ago, and they've got the reigning MVP. So until someone else steps up, they can't go ahead of them. But whose roster do you like more between the Texans and the Ravens? I feel like I'd be inclined to say the Texans at this point. Unless C.J. Stroud takes a serious step back, the idea that he's going to be throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, they're all going to be on the field next year. And then they added in Danielle Hunter. And I think Danico Autry because they lost Greenard, but they brought in Danico Autry too. There is a lot to like there, man. Upgraded at running back. Man, it's hard to convince yourself that might not be the better roster. Again, if C.J. Stroud is at least as good as he was as a rookie, or imagine if he takes another step forward in his second season. Holy crap. Now, that doesn't mean the Ravens can't beat that. And I have gotten more of a sense. Here's something I'll give you. I've gotten more of a sense the more I have talked to people inside the Ravens organization. What, you just looking at the Texans?
Yeah, I was looking like the corners they had. They added C.J. Henderson, Jeff Okudah, Desmond King. Just all these. These are
those aren't.
They were high prospects, high value prospects.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because
because if one of them works out,
right, the depth appears to be pretty good for them in the secondary, but
brought Dalton Schultz back.
Yeah, there's just a lot to like about the team that they've built. There is so much to like there. Their safeties obviously were really good.
Tommy Townsend, a Super Bowl winning punter.
No, I don't think that was the thing that I was concerned about, but Derek Stingley was really good. There is so much to like about that team. That doesn't guarantee anything, to be fair. I make that abundantly clear. I say it over and over again. It doesn't mean they're just going to waltz to winning or put them in the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs tomorrow. But just in looking at the roster, I could argue that the Texans on the whole have the better roster than the Ravens do at the moment.
Yeah. And I guess it bothers me just because I feel like the Ravens are lacking corner depth right now, and it's you couldn't give Jeff Okudah $4 million and –
Yeah, I get it, but also remember the Texans are taking advantage of the fact they have a quarterback on a rookie deal, which is the hindsight thing is why weren't the Ravens doing more of that 4 or 5 years ago? But there's nothing you can do about that at this point.
C.J. Henderson on the vet minimum.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what to expect of. That's the problem with this.
Right.
I'm not saying I don't think C.J. Henderson is a game changer at this point. There's a reason why he was available at the vet minimum. It's because we just don't really know anymore. Yes, once upon a time, we all thought C.J. Henderson was a hell of a football player.
I feel like I like his chances when he gets to
when Derek Stingley's on the field too, right?
But he gets to play behind Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey.
Oh,
Brandon
you're saying
Stevens,
if he was in Baltimore? Sure.
Yeah,
I understand that. In talking to and having some private conversations, and I don't want to share anything that anybody said because none of these were on the record. I have surmised that internally they're kind of willing to acknowledge that they might not be as good as they were a year ago. And I have gotten the sense, I think their actions back it up, that they're essentially telling you, well, I do still think they're going to add a couple of pieces post-June 1st. I do think that's going to come. I think they're kind of telling you, hey, our ability is going to be predicated on recent draft picks and this year's draft picks. We're announcing we're in that portion of paying your quarterback. That we're going to have to – the draft picks are going to have to hit. And it's the part of the Kansas City story because all we ever talk about is Mahomes and Kelsey that we kind of ignore is that they've also drafted really well. And while these guys might not be name brand superstars, they're all guys that have been largely hits. Players that have been helpful. Not all of them, but a good number of them have. And I think the Ravens, without saying it publicly, are feeling a sense of that's the way it's going to have to work here. Yes, I think they're going to draft an offensive lineman very early, but inevitably, at least 2 of those spots next year are going to have to be filled by guys that were draft picks. The Fa'aleles, the Clevelands, the Andrew Voorhees were all fairly high picks, except for Voorhees, who would have been a fairly high pick had he not been hurt. Like, none of those guys were – you're not talking about an undrafted free agent or a mirror. Like, these are guys that were drafted to be – it's just the idea of them all – if any one of them was moving into a spot this year, we probably wouldn't be panicked about it. We'd probably say, okay, it's their turn. The way that we've done that over and over. It's just the notion of all of them moving into starting spots that has us a little flummoxed, right? Like, boy, that's a lot to ask. But inevitably, if it was any one of them, if this year Daniel Fa'alele, it was his turn to step up and play, we'd say, okay. And you had 4 other guys that you brought back from last year, you would say, I'm not worried about that. If it was Voorhees, if it was Saleh, whoever it was, it just so happens to be that we think it's going to end up being multiple of them that have to move into roles, and that's a little concerning for us. Again, the sense that I have from the conversations that I've had is that they're saying it's going to have to be recent draft picks and this year's draft picks. Like, we internally, that group has to deliver, and we believe they will because we liked them when we picked them. We felt like we had a lot of depth. Now we need that depth to step up, and we have to fortify that depth with how we draft this year. It's part of the reason why I think trading out of the 30th pick is very much in play, because they, I think, believe that they have a couple more roster spots to be had than maybe they've had in other years recently. And the second part of that is, I think internally, their priority is not how do we be as good as we were a year ago, it's how are we better in January? And it's not an easy question to answer because, again, all of us would say, we think you were good enough in January. You just S the bed. We don't think there was a roster problem when you got to January. We think you had the roster to win a Super Bowl. You just, for whatever bizarro reason, decided not to use part of it. But, again, surmising from just some conversations I've had, I get the sense that they believe, unrelated, even if they had tried to run the ball more in the AFC Championship game, that a team with Derrick Henry is better suited for January football than a team with the running backs they had. Remains to be seen. We'll find out. And maybe that doesn't make them, maybe they don't win 13, 14 games in the regular season. Maybe they're a wild card, but they just, I'm surmising from conversations that I've had and some of their actions, combining that with some of their actions, that I get the sense that that's kind of the feeling that they have.
Are you confident in that?
Confident? No. Okay. But you can't be. You know, like, you can't be confident until you see it, right? Like, that's not even a... it would be wrong. I'm neutral about that, right? I'm not saying I think it's crazy. I got to see it. I'm in a weird place where, like, I still think they have the core of talent that if the majority of it stays together, I think there is a floor for what this team can be. A team with Lamar Jackson and Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton and Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers and, you know, like, a team with that core, and if that core largely stays healthy, Justin Madubuike, I think there's a floor for what they can. I don't think they can be worse than a team that's competing to get into the playoffs. So then we got to see who does take a step forward. Is this the year that finally Rashad Bateman and Lamar Jackson are on the same page? Do they figure out a way for Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews to both have huge seasons? And for that to make them game-changing. I didn't even put Derrick Henry on my list when I was naming the guys that make them have a floor. Does finally a David Ajabo or a Dafe Owe step up and show this is the reason why you had so much faith in us. Like that to me is how the season's going to turn. If some of those questions are yeses, well then yeah, we're going to feel pretty confident about it. But if they're no's and they're not, there isn't an upgrade via the draft, then no. Like it's going to be a strong no. But I can't answer that question today, unfortunately. What I can do is tell you that today's show is also brought to you by Sports and Social. Always the best place to be to watch all of the big events. It's playoff season. There's games throughout the day. It's almost like the NCAA tournament this weekend, right, with the basketball playoffs, because the games go all day. It's one after the other. So anytime that you've got time this weekend, ducking into Sports and Social, watching all the games on the big media wall, enjoying all their delicious food, and creating that atmosphere where everybody's living and dying by every shot because they all have action on the games. You can't replicate it anywhere. Inside Live Casino and Hotel. Don't forget they're showing the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul thing.
They got a real fight on there too. Amanda Serrano's fighting.
That's this weekend?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought they
Mike
were
Tyson card.
Oh. I don't know if it's a real fight or not.
Well, Amanda Serrano is.
That part I largely agree with.
She's fighting Katie Taylor again.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about any of that. Anyway, more of the story is Sports and Social, Inside Live Casino and Hotel.
Wearing boxing gloves, aren't they?
Thank you. Inside Live Casino and Hotel.
The referee, huh?
When we come back in, we'll make a trip to Bowie. We're going to tell you about a really neat local story in the golf world and fighting words, all coming up on GCR. Hartford Community College will host the National Junior College Athletic Association's 2024 Men's Lacrosse National Championship and Women's Lacrosse Invitational on May 11th and 12th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air, Maryland. The semifinals on May 11th include the Women's Invitational, with the Women's North A representative playing the Mid-Atlantic B representative at 10 a.m., and the Women's North B representative facing off against the Mid-Atlantic A representative at 12:30 p.m. For the men's championship, the number 1 seed will play the lowest remaining seed in the quarterfinal round at 3:30 p.m. The men's number 2 seed will face off against the highest remaining seed at 6 p.m. May 12th is reserved for the national championship games at noon for the women and 4 p.m. for the men. Tickets are $20 each day at hartfordevents.com or at the gate if available.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
You sure do know who we are, and you know who Roots Chris is, because whether you are celebrating a special milestone, entertaining clients, or just enjoying a well-deserved night out, you should allow Roots Chris to show you and prove to you why it is that they have been considered one of the most revered names in steaks since 1965. They've got the finest steaks, they've got the best service, and they have just an unbelievable level of hospitality. It's Roost Chris we're talking about. You can hear the plate sizzle. Everything about it is so good. Make your reservation right now, roostchris.com. It is time for us to make our weekly trip to Bowie to chat with a member of the Baysox, and our next guest is off to a red-hot start to the season. He is Orioles prospect TT Bowens, and he's back with us now here on GCR. TT, it's Glenn and Griffin. It's good to chat with you as always, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
No, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to chat with you, dude. I imagine it's definitely good to be talking when you are hitting the way that you have been hitting to start the season. I guess that's the dumb question today. What got into you? What's been in the water? Was it something about your off season? Like, what has been clicking that you've been off to this crazy start?
I mean, you know, in this game, it's very interesting. You know, it's a lot of hard work and the grind, and as you guys see it, kind of day in, day out, everyone has their ups and downs. You know, the biggest thing for me, I've worked on the off season now, having, you know, a bit just about 3 professional seasons under my belt, just really trying to fine tune all my holes and weaknesses and, you know, attack those, because, you know, at the higher levels I go up, you know, that's what gets exposed. And, you know, so for me personally, just trying to attack those weaknesses and be the same guy every day and efficient with my work.
Did you have that confidence coming into the season that you had done that successfully and that a big year was in store? Was it something where, you know, you needed to hit home runs in 3 straight games to say to yourself, like, oh, yeah, it's coming together?
Yeah, you know, I mean, confidence is a huge thing. I mean, you see it, everyone in the minor leagues, like, everyone has the talent. You know, you go watch BP and you'll watch it dozens of balls go out of the park, you know, hard hit balls. Everyone has the talent, and, you know, it's a lot of it is between the ears, and, you know, that is also, you know, a big piece that I worked on the off season. You know, through my career, I've, you know, shown flashes of what I've known I'm capable of doing, and, you know, and consistency is the biggest part of baseball, and, you know, that's the hardest thing to do. You know, that's why those guys in the major leagues are so impressive, is because they do the same thing every single day. And, you know, that's the biggest thing that I've worked on in my game is, you know, being that consistent guy with my work, with my process, you know, with my preparation, mentally, physically, emotionally, you know, and day in, day out, turn the page. No matter what happens yesterday, today's a new day, and, you know, attack it as if.
TT Bowens is with us here on GCR, Baysox first baseman. TT, the last couple of years, clearly the numbers probably not where you wanted them to be. The strikeouts were a little elevated. On the mental side of things, right? Like, how did you handle all of that? And I know you get to AA and it starts to feel real, right? Like, that's the level where everybody says, like, wow, you know, like, it's really happening. How did you handle all of the whatever frustration you went through, whatever doubt might have creeped into your mind? Besides just the baseball stuff, how did you handle all of that over the course of the last couple of years?
You know, I credit that a lot to the people, you know, I surround myself with. I'm blessed enough to have a lot of people who support me and help me, and, you know, in the organization and outside as well. And, you know, just the belief in my skill set and, you know, knowing what I'm capable of doing. And, just being able to, put those hardships kind of right in front of my face and recognize what needs to be worked on in order to, make that next step into being a major league player and, being that consistent player day in, day out, and emotionally and mentally more than physically.
It's interesting you say that. Like, do you almost wonder if it required you going through some of that stuff in order to come out from it on the other side and to learn from it and to be in a better place at this point?
100%.
Yeah.
I think that is, I'd say that's about 99% of players.
Yeah.
There's probably a small percent of players who have never struggled in their career,
right.
But if you talk to probably any player who's had success or made it to the big leagues, that I know most of them will credit a lot of their success to their failures, and learning from those hardships and knowing truly what you need to work on and what you need to get better at and what you need to be more consistent with.
I mean, so far so good. It looks like it is paying off, man. TT Bowens with us here on GCR. So what does it feel like to hit home runs in 3 straight games? Do you sort of start to get to a point where, I feel like I'm king of the world, like you're Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic? Like, what is that feeling like? It's one thing to succeed. It's another thing to just be absolutely owning during a period of time.
Well, it's definitely a good feeling, but that's one of the big things. I feel like I've worked on is not whether it's 3 straight games with a home run or 3 straight games with 3 strikeouts in each game. I want to attack each day as if yesterday didn't happen, and I feel like that is the mindset and the mentality that I want to have going forward, and I feel like that's kind of what allowed me to get off to a better start and try to stay on this path. Obviously there will be hardships at times, and just trying to collect the information and what I'm realizing in the situation to kind of improve on whatever I may struggle with what's to come.
Nah, it's staying even keel, man. I completely get that. You don't get too high, you don't get too low. You just keep the work going and keep the grind up. The Baysox are home this weekend tonight with happy hour ahead of the game. And this weekend, highlights include Glow in the Park, as well as fireworks on Saturday, a Negro League tribute on Saturday as well, and on Sunday, a knit beanie giveaway and a Meet the Team autograph opportunity before the game. Get your tickets for this weekend by going to Baysox.com. Orioles out of town. It's a great weekend to get down and check out the Bowie Baysox. TT Bowens with us here on GCR. TT, I don't know that I've just ever asked you, your path to baseball to begin with, right? Like a kid from Connecticut, a part of the country where, it's not warm for much of the year, and it's a little bit harder to get into baseball. And, I guess maybe we can talk openly about it, right? Like, we're still in an era where, there isn't a dominant percentage of black baseball players, right? Like, tell me about your path to baseball and how you fell in love with this game and it became the thing that you wanted to do moving forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's certainly no secret that, baseball in Connecticut doesn't produce the most superstars, but, there is a small percentage, and, I'm actually grateful to be pretty close with one of them. Rajay Davis actually is from just about the town over from me. And so, once I started my pro career, I really kind of connected with him, and, he has a very interesting career similar to me. He was I think a 40th round draft pick out of a junior college and turned into a 13-year big league career. And so he certainly had a world of information to kind of help me getting into this. It's obviously, like I said, it's tough growing up, with the weather and playing outside, and, it's not really the best talent. But, getting into pro ball, trying to learn my way, and with playing with a lot of these guys, from the South, Texas, Florida, California, these guys, have been playing outside year round their whole lives. And it almost seems like, they're miles ahead of you, and trying to even the playing field, get consistent with my work. And a lot of that is, a testament to that mental aspect that I talked about, and really willing to put the work in more than physically.
That's
and,
awesome.
That's the biggest key, and I'm grateful for it. Not a lot of players come from where I'm from, and like I said, same thing with the struggles. I'm very grateful for where I came from. I think it benefited me a lot.
Did it made you work harder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how I feel about it. I went to a small college as well.
Yeah.
And, so that kind of gave me a little more push to, I felt like I always needed to work harder and push myself even more to get to where I want to be. And, so I'm grateful for that.
You talk. It's the baseball hotbed of Central Connecticut State University. Everybody knows that. TT, so just a couple more with you, and I really appreciate the time this morning. I wonder, do you ever look? Is it ever difficult because you know how much talent is in the system, is in the pipeline? And maybe the answer is exactly what we just talked about. No, it just makes you work harder because you know how much more difficult it is. Some guys can start looking and saying, "Oh, my path to the big leagues is easy," or there's a clear path to how I can get here. That's not necessarily the case in Baltimore, right? There's just so much here. Is it ever difficult thinking about that? Is there a path for me to be able to ride this thing out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, what the Orioles have right now is special. What they've grown and developed in our organization is very special. But that's one thing I will always say is it makes everybody here better. Everybody in the organization, no one gets complacent. You see our AAA team in Norfolk, and it's that will make you continue to work and realize that what you did today is great, but you got more work to do. And, tomorrow's a new day, and you got to kind of work on accomplishing more. And if you've already accomplished the most, it's 4 for 4 home runs, you got to show up to the park and do it again the next day and, keep working. But the atmosphere that they've built here has allowed players to push each other. It's players, they're here are smart and intelligent, and we talk amongst each other. But watching each player go about their work and their business and then go on the field and perform it is a whole nother level of making you want to work harder.
TT, you guys were up in Hartford last week. Was that part of this hot start? Did you feel like you had to put on for your home state?
Yeah, everybody there, the friends and family.
Really put on for the hometown?
Yeah, no, it was definitely special, to go back home. I've played in that park a few times in college. We would play there here and there. So it was a familiar place and, familiar city. Central Connecticut was about 10 minutes away from Dunkin' Donuts Park where the Yard Goats play. So very familiar area for me. It felt like being back at home. I got to see tons and tons of friends and family. So, that was a great feeling. It kind of reminded me of, when I was young and stuff, and a lot of people I played with, family that would come to all my games growing up. So, seeing them again for the first time in years, a lot of them haven't seen me play since I was in college or even high school. It was a great feeling, and I really enjoyed the time there.
All right, TT, before we let you go, I need a scouting report. Kyle Bradish was down there with you guys the other day, and the numbers sure look good. How did it look up close and personal to you?
I think it's very fair to say that the numbers matched up with the in-person performance.
We like the sounds of that. We like the sounds of that a lot. Can't wait to have him back up here. TT, so happy for you, man. Awesome to see the start that you're off to this season. Can't wait to see how this continues for you and what might be next. Let's remind everybody, it's on Twitter, it's at Bowens_TT, correct?
Yes.
And then on Instagram, TTBowens_24 to give TT Bowens a follow. Thanks for spending the time with us, man. Really enjoyed the conversation. Look forward to doing this again down the road. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. TT Bowens off to an awesome start to the season with the Bowie Baysox, hitting .375 with, as I mentioned, home runs in 3 straight games, 14 RBI, OPSing at a 12-10 clip. That is those are very, very strong numbers for the start of the season for TT Bowens. Appreciate him taking the time for us. All right, as we continue along here on a Thursday edition of GCR, I want to talk about something a little bit different. As in the obviously it was a big weekend in golf with the Masters, but locally, a big story in the golf world as Baltimore County Golf won the Public Golf Leader Award from the NGCOA Mid-Atlantic. And joining us now, he is the Director of Golf Operations. He is Joe Rahnis from Baltimore County Golf, and he is with us now here on GCR. Joe, it's Glenn. It's great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Hey, Glenn, how are you? Good morning to you.
Everything is good, man. First of all, it was funny. I had Forrester was in here yesterday, and he said they could still be playing right now for an 8th straight day at Augusta, and they would all still be chasing Scotty Scheffler at this point. Do you agree with that assessment?
He's unbelievable.
That's crazy, right?
He is really just such a talent. And, the thing about Scotty is that he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And just a pleasure to watch.
It was kind of crazy watching everybody,
And humble, right?
No, there's so much to like about the guy. But Drew's comparison was like watching it on Sunday, it was like watching – and I'm not trying to make Scotty Scheffler Tiger Woods because, my God, let's not do that, right? But it was almost
We're not going there.
Right. It was almost like watching the way that guys crumbled – around Tiger Woods, right? Like
yes.
in his prime, you get to a Sunday and he would just be steady and everybody else would almost seemingly panic in the moment because they were up against Tiger Woods. That's kind of what it felt like watching that final round on Sunday.
Well, you're right. When Scotty was on the 8th hole and we're looking at the leaderboard, we're thinking this is going to be an unbelievable finish. And then 4 holes later, he had a 3-shot lead. And in your mind, it's over, right?
Yeah, correct.
Let's go do something else. We don't need to watch the last 5 holes.
Time to go mow the lawn. 100%.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Joe, let's talk about this because I don't know what the Public Golf Leader Award is and why it matters, but I understand it's a big deal, and I'm going to let you explain to me exactly what it is and why it means so much to everybody with Baltimore County Golf.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing is, first and foremost, we didn't apply for this. There was no form we filled out. It wasn't something we were seeking. We got a phone call from David Norman, who's the head of the National Golf Course Owners Association, which is a very big golf organization and does a lot for both private, resort, and public facilities. And he called me to let me know that we were nominated and that their board voted. And at the end of it, they decided that the 5 golf courses and the training center that we've been running for years was worthy and deserving of their Public Golf Leader Award, which means that they thought that we were on the forefront of making sure that conditions and experience and keeping price points competitive and affordable. They just felt like we did all of that very well. And then, of course, I'm sure there were a lot of things like online reputations and different interviews with people who have played our facilities led to their decision. And at the end of it, it was just it was great news to give to our board and to our head professionals and our superintendents. And it was something that we're very proud of. And we don't work for awards. We work to make great experiences. That's always been our mission at Baltimore County Golf. And, the awards, I think, are just a result of when you do things right.
We're chatting with Joe Rahnis here on GCR. Joe, I still feel like there might be people that would say, okay, but what is Baltimore County Golf, right? Like, define that for me a little bit more. So let's go back a second before we move forward again.
Absolutely. So Baltimore County Golf is comprised of 5 golf courses: Rocky Point, Fox Hollow, Diamond Ridge, and then what we call our 2 premier courses, the Woodlands and Greystone Golf Course.
Yeah.
And then we also have a top 50 driving range at Fox Hollow. It's our Fox Hollow Training Center where we do all of our fittings, our demo days. Most of our club sales come out of that particular facility. And then we also have a restaurant we opened up in Greystone. So there's a lot of different moving parts with Baltimore County Golf. And we're not just for golfers. We're not just for, experienced golfers. We have Get Golf Ready classes. We have all sorts of different clinics. We have places for non-golfers to come and eat. It's kind of our mission has always been to, again, provide great golf experiences or experiences at a golf course at affordable rates and make sure that the enjoyment factor is very high. No different than up at Greystone. If you go up there one day, you can see you can tell who the golfers are and who the non-golfers are just by the way generally they're dressed. The golfers are having a great time. The non-golfers are having a great time. We have sports on TV, a beautiful bar. The vista Greystone. It's just a short ride up 83. It's a very nice place. But that's kind of who we are. We do a lot of different things, and each facility has its own niche, depending upon what you're looking for.
So it does feel like it's that time of the year, right? Like it's warming up, and everybody's starting to realize, like, hey, I wouldn't mind going for a nice stroll today. Walk me through, because, Joe, admittedly, and I've been through this a million times, I am a terrible golfer. I am an awful, awful golfer. Walk me through every layer of, for someone like me who maybe is saying, all right, I got to be better if I'm going to go out with some clients. I at least have to be able to not embarrass myself. And then maybe for folks that are at advanced levels, as the weather is warming up and as it's getting back to time, if you don't have like a traditional golf home right now, what all might be available for golfers of different levels to consider Baltimore County golf courses as their new golf home?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The Masters is kind of the unofficial start of the golf season here in Maryland. Not that we don't play all year, but that's really where, if you put your clubs away in October, you're trying to find them and dust them off after the Masters is over because you want to go play. And you're right. No matter what your experience level is with the game of golf, we have a spot for you. If you're a true beginner, but you're ready to kind of take on the golf course, Fox Hollow is a really fun. I'm not going to say it's easy because no golf course is easy, but it's the easiest one we have. And what I mean by easy is that you can hit some stray shots, but still have some access to the greens. It's not super tree lined. It's not incredibly undulated. The greens aren't real fast. There's not fairway bunkers everywhere. So it's a really nice starter course for golfers who are really just getting into the game. Or if you want to walk the golf course at the times that we allow that, it's the easiest course we have to walk. And then as your game gets better, you can go try Rocky Point and Diamond Ridge, which from a competition level, it's a little harder, right? Longer golf shots, dog legs, more bunkering. Rocky Point, you have the wind factor because it's on the water, but beautiful views. Diamond Ridge is a lot more undulated than Rocky Point and Fox Hollow. And then, of course, if you really want to step up and play what we call our championship courses or our premieres, the Woodlands over in Windsor Mill was designed by Lindsay Irvin, and it's a fantastic test of golf with a ton of undulation, fairway bunkers, 5 sets of tee markers, so you can stretch it all the way back to 7,000 yards if you want to. I don't do that, but some people like to do that. And then, of course, Greystone is really our signature course, and it was supposed to be a private club back in the early 90s, was bought by Baltimore County, transferred to the Baltimore County Revenue Authority, which is us, and we manage the courses for Baltimore County. And Greystone is an elite public club. It's one that is beautiful. It's a great test of golf, and it's really a destination. A lot of our golfers that aren't pass holders there, they might play it several times a year. It's a great it's a great place to go on Father's Day. We're sold out immediately because it's that if you're going to play it once a year, generally it's going to be on a special occasion, or it's going to be that one time you want to go out and play. So those are kind of the golf courses and the way that they play for different caliber golfers. If you're an entry level golfer trying to get into the game, we have 15 PGA and LPGA instructors at all of our facilities. And if you go to our website at baltimore-golfing.com and click the instruction tab, you can see the profile of all of our instructors, all of their rates. Some of them have their availability and how to get a hold of them to book your lesson. Fox Hollow Training Center is where we do the bulk of our lessons. It's where we have our TrackMan technology. We still have the Flight Scope technology. We have a teaching tee. We have 60 mats, 40 of them covered. All of the latest equipment. We have demo days there, 3 practice greens. So that's where we do a lot of our junior camps, our Get Golf Ready camps, beginner camps. We have 2 camps that we just put online that you can sign up for right now. And it's if you're afraid and you've never tried before, this is a great clinic for you. And we try to cater it to everybody, trying to get golfers of all calibers to come in and at least try this sport. It's a wonderful sport. It's the only one that really you can play into your 80s and 90s. And we have a lot of league members and pass holders that are that age, and they're still having a great time. And it's keeping them young and fit. And it's their exercise and it's their social program, right? Because you get out and you get to see your buddies and you get to see other people. And it's just, that's really what our motto is. It's let's figure out anybody that wants to try golf and give them a path into it. And we have all sorts of access to the game of golf through our facilities.
And then before I let you go, Joe, just like anything new this year, anything that's upgraded that, for folks that have played the courses before, that they're going to come back and they're going to experience, and it's going to be a little bit different than maybe the last time they were there.
Yeah, I mean, as always, there's always work being done on the golf course as you go into the off season. We're always trying to make the golf course as safe as possible, which means you're taking out, trees that are dead or have fallen, and you're cleaning up the facilities. The biggest thing over the last 2 years that we've gotten the best feedback is when we bought our new golf carts, we included the GPS technology on those golf carts. And what that does, it does several things. For the golfer, it allows them to understand where they can go on the golf course because it's all geo-fenced. And it also gives them exact yardages to different hazard spots, to the flag stick. So from a strategic standpoint, it's almost like having a caddy for the golfer. For the golf course, what it does is it allows us to keep people safe by geo-fencing areas we don't want the golf carts to get into. And then the overall pace of play has improved drastically since we've put that in play, because golfers know if they're on time or if they're a little behind. And generally, if you know you're behind, you're going to do everything you can to catch up. And our average paces last year, depending on the course, were anywhere between 4 hours and 12 minutes and 4 hours and 28 minutes, depending on which course. Fox Hollow had the best pace at 4 hours and 12 minutes, and that's on average. And then Greystone was at 4 hours and 28 minutes on average. So those are really nice pace times. You can get your round in. It can be enjoyable, and then you can have some time to maybe go to the grill and have some wings and some drinks and whatnot before you head out.
Awesome. Joe, where can people find out more about what's going on with Baltimore County Golf?
Yeah, if you go to www.baltimoregolfing.com, that's our full website. On that website, you can also find our social media outlets, Facebook and Instagram, and X. And then you also have our online store. You can book a tee time on that site, and you can also purchase your passes, which allow you access to the courses. And then all of the information on every program we have is on that. And then, of course, you can always reach out to our head golf professionals or myself. We'd be more than happy to pick up the phone and walk you through different things or just talk golf.
BaltimoreGolfing.com, again, is the website. Joe, congratulations to you and your team on winning the Public Golf Leader Award. That is truly remarkable. And you would have your work cut out for me, but I'm not giving up and saying never. Who knows? It might be the time for me to try to finally commit to improving my game this year. It's just, it is. Charles Barkley laughs. All right, Joe. Joe Rahnis, really appreciate you, man. Thank you for spending the time with us this morning.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Joe Rahnis with us here from Baltimore County Golf. All right, let's grab a break. Then we'll come back in. Fighting words plus, I guess a note about the weird Caitlin Clark thing from yesterday that was really weird. And also a note about, as I mentioned, our friend Tyus Bowser. We'll talk about those things when we come back in. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey, it's Jeremy Kahn. This postseason, bet in person at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks with locations in Canton and in Towson, and enjoy the best in-class sports wagering experience at their state-of-the-art facilities, bringing an unmatched sports betting thrill.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor, dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well, then don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, if you missed Stan the Fan, Ross Jackson. I just made Ross Grimsley and Luke Jackson the same person. Stan the Fan, Ross Grimsley, and Luke Jackson talking Orioles on Monday. You can find that show right now, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, youtube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Tonight, Stan the Fan, Charles, and Eric Garfield will get together to talk Orioles prospects, maybe some T.T. Bowens conversation in there. Again, same locations, facebook.com to watch it live, and then the same spots tomorrow if you miss it live. All right, let me knock out a couple of things real quick. One, Matt Eady, Eddie, who just joined us earlier this week, and I already got it wrong. My bad. Sorry, Matt. Without saying it out loud, brings up sort of the other element of the Jackson Holiday conversation that we were having earlier, that important Jackson Holiday context. 1, he will be fine in the long run. 2, but if he requires AAA time, a la Grayson Rodriguez last year, then any optional assignment of 20 days or more would reattach club control for the 2030 season. And I'm not suggesting that the Orioles would be more inclined to send him back down because of that. There will, of course, be people who will have that opinion if it were to occur. Like, well, you're only sending him back down so you can get that. That's going to exist. That was what people thought on opening day, right? Well, they brought him back up quickly. I can't answer the question. I don't know. But what I do know is I'm fine with it because I said from the get-go, the story to me was about PPI. And what happens is if they send him back down and then say he comes back up in June, rips the cover off the ball, and ends up being Rookie of the Year anyway, then he can get that year of control back by winning Rookie of the Year. And they're still protected by getting the draft pick via the PPI program. If he doesn't, then they get the year out of control, and they consider that a win. And if he still ends up being that good in, say, year 3, that he's a top MVP vote getter, then they still get the benefit of the PPI program and still get a draft pick for that. Again, not suggesting that that means that they should or that they will. Just it's all relevant information when we have the discussions. Next, it has become public this morning. The Ravens, the cap thing is a little bit murkier. Brian McFarland, of course, our friend, Ravens salary cap extraordinaire, Russell Street Report, tweets out the following. The Ravens recently had a $1.8 million reduction in cap space due to former Raven Tyus Bowser filing a $4.5 million grievance against the team. Bowser spent the 2023 season on NFI and was not paid his salary. Grievances initially count 40% of the grievance amount on the cap until resolved. The grievance likely won't be resolved until 2025. If the Ravens win, they will get a $1.8 million credit on the cap. If Bowser prevails, the Ravens will instead get hit with a $2.7 million charge. You're going to have to let Tyus explain it. I get it. I know that you all want me to tell you more here, and this is the way that it works. You also know that I'm personally friends with Tyus Bowser, and I got to bow out on this one. I don't have a choice. Yeah, I do. I know. I can't share it. That's not my place. This is where reporter goes out the window, and I don't get to pretend that I'm a neutral party in this. Sorry. I'm sorry. That's just the reality of it. Yes. I think that Tyus is going to be interested in talking. I don't know when exactly. But I think he's going to be interested in talking and trying to share a little bit more that we were all frustrated by not being able to know a year ago. Frankly, here's the part I'll tell you. He didn't know. The questions that you wanted answered that I couldn't get answers to, now knowing what I know, the answer is he didn't have the answers. I think he's got more of them now. But he's going to have to tell you about that. So I think that day is coming. I don't think it's today. I don't know that he knew that this was going to be public right now. But I guess if these things have to get reported and there are cap ramifications and it had to become public, and I think he's got a vision in his mind of when he wants to talk about it, and I don't think it's today. But I do think that there will be more to be learned about that, and I think it's pretty complicated. And I know that I'm being, like, some of you are probably punching walls or punching the air at least, because I'm saying something without really saying something.
Punching walls.
Punching walls. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you more. I really wish I could. I understand that everybody wants information and it's tough, but this is no longer a reporter thing for me. This is a friendship, and that's just the reality. So I think that information will come, and I understand that it's frustrating. I would tell you Tyus Bowser loves Baltimore. I told you that earlier in the show. He was buying an Orioles jersey on his way out the door. He loves Baltimore. And I think he would love to be a Raven. But that's not going to happen. That's just the reality of the circumstances. So, it's what it is. It's what it is. And I can't. I'm sorry. That's it. That's all I can say. Real quick, before we do fighting words. By the way, Caitlin Clark was introduced yesterday in Indianapolis. Very awkward interaction. And unfortunately, the audio only gives you a part of it because part of it involves a visual that we don't have the camera for. And it's even more bizarre because it involves a reporter, a columnist, who's not like new, who isn't like fringe in any way. Somebody who worked for CBS for a very long time, ended up deciding, I don't know if he's from, I feel like he was working in Memphis for a while. I don't know where Greg's from originally. But he decided to take this job at the Indianapolis Star, a newspaper of note. and had this bizarre interaction at Caitlin Clark's introductory press conference yesterday. Do you have the video, Griffin?
Yes.
Go ahead and let everybody. This is so weird.
Hi, Caitlin. Greg Doyle, Indy Star. Real quick, let me do this.
So he's making her heart gesture.
You like that?
I like that you're here. I like that you're here.
I do that at my family after every game, so.
Okay, well, let's
cool.
start doing it to me and we'll get along just fine. So, question is.
Yeah. That's
Hi,
weird.
Caitlin.
I don't know Greg Doyle well. It's been a long time since I've chatted with Greg Doyle. He actually used to be kind of a regular when he worked at CBS because he was very involved in college basketball, and I think he actually was on. He did TV for years on CBS Sports Network. I read what Greg wrote. It was a bad day. Like, this was really weird, and I don't think he got how weird it was. And in a way that gives me some amount of, like, viability to his belief that he just was he was just really awkward. He didn't mean it to be, like, chauvinistic or that, like, I want you to be in love with me or something. Like, it was just so bizarre. It felt like the charitable way of looking at it was that, like, Greg Doyle was kind of making a press conference about himself. That's the charitable way of looking at it. How do I get attention at Caitlin Clark's introductory press conference? That's the best case scenario in all of this. The worst case scenario is truly grotesque. Like, his attempt to explain it is, I do this regularly. I have a history. If you go back and watch press conference, I'll almost ask a bizarre off-the-wall question of someone in order to set them up for a more serious question afterwards. And a lot of us in interviewing do this all the time. Like, we go a little more softball at the beginning and then get into, just try to loosen someone up, right? That's the way that we always, if we can loosen them up to try to get them to feel safe and feel like we're not. But that's so weird. I don't even know what to make of it. Like, a question like, hey, where did this come from? Would be a good, sure, why do you do the heart thing? That would be a good, even though it's not pressing, even though it's not, I think it would be a good question for an introductory press conference. Hey, we're so used to seeing you do this. What is this? Tell me about it. I think everybody would say it's a good question. Do that to me and we'll be good, like insisting that I'm going to be a part of your story here, which, again, is part of the problem. Media personalities regularly want to attach themselves to it. When you think of Lamar Jackson, think of me. And I mean that. Like, it's not just unique to columnists or talk show hosts. Or we want to be associated because it's good for attention. It's good for our brand, for us to be associated with things that people like. I am a big Arizona Coyotes fan, so, like, this last couple of weeks has been very sad for me. If you missed it, the Coyotes played what's going to be their last game in Arizona. They're going to move to Utah.
Big hockey state.
What a bizarre. Like, that has to kill Gary Bettman, that, like, he's bent over and over and over again to try to keep a real market with hockey, and now he's got to move to a largely minor league kind of market because there's just no end in sight for the issue in Arizona. After he had already had to move another real market, Atlanta, up to Winnipeg. Like, this has got to kill him. Like, to be losing these giant markets in favor of these small markets is not good for hockey. But Craig Morgan is a reporter for a website in Phoenix that, to me, I associate with this story, with the story of the Coyotes never ending, what's their future? But instead of making it about himself, he just reports. And by being someone with all the information, he's the place that I want to turn to. Unfortunately, in, like, this kind of new world of media where you're not just a writer, you're a social media personality, you're a whatever you are, it's like you feel like you have to force your way in. When you think of Caitlin Clark, I want you to think of Greg That's what it feels like. And it's gross. I genuinely don't think, and I don't know Greg well, so.
It seems like he's not, particularly beloved in Indianapolis.
But it's a columnist. Columnists are that way. Like, Mike Preston's not beloved in Baltimore, right? But he's been a part of the fabric, and like him or not, he has been there and he's paid his dues. He's legitimate. The columnist, part of the job is to say, I think this guy is to have opinions. And when you have strong opinions, not everybody's going to like it. I can't get people to play along with Would You Rather Wednesday. They got to tell me how smart they are.
Ask some good questions. Come on.
Yeah, that's definitely on me. I mean, that's the way it works. I don't think this was I don't believe that it was as creepy as it gets, but at least in the intention. But it doesn't change how it came off. He wrote an apology column later at night. I think that one's weird too. Like, don't ask people to pay a subscription in order to be able to read. Do that as publicly and as available as possible. And don't try to get clicks out of that. I don't like that either. I think I get it. Maybe do that on social and then write your column afterwards. There were a lot of bigger think pieces yesterday about the role of male journalists covering women's sport. I don't think it's that deep. I don't. I think there are a lot of male journalists that are plenty capable of covering women's sports and understanding how to treat athletes like athletes. That kind of doesn't matter what you are. I do think that it enters into the awkward. I've said this a million times. It's always been awkward, the idea of media entering into a locker room while dudes are changing. We never talk about it, but it's always been awkward. It's always been weird. I've thought it was weird. That's... If you told me that was part of my job... Oh, by the way, here, we're going to hire you, but you have to let these people come in while you're going to be naked. It's effing insane. Insanity. And we've never really dealt with it. It percolates every now and then in discussions, and then it kind of goes away whatever, it's part of it. We just live with it. It's effing insane. I can't believe that we continue to allow that to exist. I don't think that I think this was really effing bizarre and absolutely should be stated as unacceptable, and it required an apology. I don't think it's bigger than that, but it's a shame that it overshadowed this big day for Caitlin Clark in Indianapolis. By the way, did you see that the Mystics are moving their first game against the Fever to the big arena?
Oh, really? Oh.
So if you want to go see Caitlin Clark this summer, I don't remember what the date is. I think it's in June. The first game they're playing against the Fever, they're playing it at the downtown. I guess they're both kind of downtown. They're playing it at the whatever the name. What is the Capital One? Yeah. Is that the name of that now? They're playing it there instead of playing at the entertainment and sports arena that they have for the Mystics and the G League team. So they're anticipating the massive crowd and capitalizing on it by moving the game into the big arena, and I'm expecting there's going to be more of that. I've suggested that it's possible that in Indianapolis they might want to go about seeing if they can get the Dome for a couple of games. That's the demand that's going to exist moving forward. So that part of this story is cool. All right, we're running late, but I know it was a big week, so go ahead and hit the music, and we'll do that version, and then we'll try to knock out Tidbit and Tubular quickly.
It's Fighting Words with Griffin Bass.
Fighting Words brought to you this week by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com, who brings you County Sports Zone. CountySports.zone is the website for the latest in high school sports news, scores, schedules, rankings, pick 'em. It's all there. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com.
It was, in fact, UFC 300, and it pretty much lived up to the hype, in my opinion. It was definitely the greatest UFC card I think I ever watched. It was just great fight after great fight. It was hard for it to. It was going to be tough for it, I think, to live up, and I believe it definitely delivered. Capped it off with Alex Pereira's knockout of Jamal Hill. That was, of course, I'm sure. Did you see that one? That was where So he got kicked, like it was a low blow.
Yeah.
And so Herb Dean was getting ready to like step in and be like, "Oh, you got kicked. You got kicked in the nuts. So let's give him a second to breathe." And literally, he didn't even look at Herb Dean. He just went. He stopped him.
Stay over there.
And then 2 seconds later, one punch, and he dropped Jamal Hill and defended the light heavyweight belt. So it was a fun way to watch it end. And then I guess the highlight of all highlights was Max Holloway knocking out Justin Gaethje with 1 second left in a 5-round fight. It was 24th minute, 59th second of the 25th minute, and it was pretty ridiculous. Max Holloway is now the BMF as well. That's the biggest takeaway.
Yes, that's nothing, but.
Bo Nickel got a win as well. He got a second-round sub of Cody Brundage, and then he was disappointed with his performance because he wanted to, get it done in the first round. It was, I don't know if that win hurt him at all, but I think Cody Brundage provided the most unique challenge that he's seen so far and might see moving forward, just because Cody Brundage was a wrestler himself, so he kind of had ways to defend against the way that Bo was wrestling. However, it did kind of just show, I thought his boxing was taking a step forward. He didn't really display any of that. So it just kind of showed that these wrestlers do continue to be kind of one-dimensional.
Yeah.
But Ben Askren had no stand-up. His game was, I'm gonna shoot and take you down, or put you in a guillotine or something, and so that was. So
you think that might be problematic for his his superstardom,
yes,
the way that he's been identified as being the guy that will make people come to the sport in the coming years?
Yeah.
You think that could be troublesome?
I think so. I mean, he's still obviously really young and still early in his MMA career,
right.
so he can continue to develop it. And maybe that was the game plan, to just continue to take him down. That was something else other people have pointed out. It seems like Bo hasn't really come in with much of a game plan to any of his fights so far, and that's just because he is just such the better athlete. He's got this one skill that he is so much better at than you that at this point it hasn't hurt him that he doesn't have much of a game plan. But I think he called out Anthony Hernandez. He's still taking was that Anthony Hernandez or Alex Hernandez? I forget who he called out.
I certainly don't know. If you're asking me to bail you out,
I think that would
here.
be a fine. Yeah. I think that would be a fine matchup. And
I believe it's Andrew Suarez.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think that's
it was Albert Suarez.
Ah, damn it, that's
right. But he's continuing to kind of slow roll himself as well. Whenever he talks about I'm 2 or 3 years down the line. So I think not too worried yet, but I would like to see some more steps forward in his striking game, just because we haven't seen that from wrestlers and
yeah. I mean,
and he's going to need to show some of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
in the context of being star of stars, I think to your point, if Bo Nickel, this is a fine. He's still very new to this. Let's not forget that, and it's still fine that this is his trajectory. But if he's going to be the person that's going to get casuals to come to the sport, and that's clearly the reason why he was on this card, because this was not like a. This was a showcase Bo Nickel on a card where a lot of people are going to be more people than we think will typically be watching a UFC card will be watching this one. So let's make sure Bo Nickel's on the main card because we believe he is the next star. And you guys that have been ranting and raving about Bo Nickel for some time, and I get it, he's certainly talented. There's no question about that. But to be that guy, he's got to be a more complete fighter to really be the I have to tune in to watch this guy. I've got to buy the cards whenever he's on it. That's the context.
Yeah, and I mean, because Alex Pereira, he's also very one-dimensional where, he has no ground game. You can take him down, you can lay on top of him. He's shown that, he can still win those kind of fights. Jan Blachowicz tried to take him down and wasn't able to keep him down. So, he kind of has that, they call it just get up jitsu, where Derek Lewis, whenever he would be on the ground, he just decides to get up and just stands up. So it seems like he kind of has that, but maybe it's showing that you have to have.
Alex Pereira's a fine fighter, but there is no casual appeal to Alex Pereira.
Well, I mean, he's just, other than he's got the strongest left hand we've ever seen in the sport, maybe.
You're having a different conversation. No casual person says Alex Pereira is on this card. I've got to watch that card. Now, some of that is personality driven too, right? And when I say this about
this guy speaks Brazilian and
or
Portuguese.
I'm not. this is not a shot at someone. It's saying the context for Bo Nickel clearly appears to be, here is this American star that we think is marketable, and we have shoved down your throat before there is anything that justifies it. What we're playing to is the hype. We are purposely playing to the hype of this guy. Now, for that to translate, he's got to be legit.
Mm-hmm. And so that I think that was my point I was trying to make is like until he shows some steps forward in the striking game and shows some legit knockout power, like maybe there is no path to stardom for him.
To superstardom, to that level of a mass crossover appeal.
Yeah, and because just grinding things out on the ground is just not something appeal to anyone. We saw that in the Aljamain Sterling fight. He got a very boring decision over Calvin Kattar, as I predicted. But yeah, no one was a fan of that. In fact, I couldn't believe it. They cut him off. They didn't allow him to speak on the mic after his fight either. I was a little disappointed because I enjoy listening to Aljo on the mic, and I'm sure he would have soaked in the booze as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yuri Prohaska knocked out.
What's his face did that all the time? Who am I thinking of that was always boring?
On the mic?
No, not
fighting.
Fighting. Yeah. Was it Silva? Was that who it was? That was just
he always.
Dude.
He would still have a front kick to the face every
I
now
don't
and then.
know, man. Like he definitely was very content to say, "I'm just going to seize."
Yeah. Yes.
I'm gonna have.
At times, yeah.
Dude, there were a lot of those back because this is the area where I would watch all the cards and I would be like, "Whoa, God, woof."
Kayla Harrison. So the top two, I think, probably performers coming out of it will be Max Holloway, obviously with his knockout. Kayla Harrison.
Max Holloway was going to win the fight no matter what, right?
Yes, correct.
That's
probably up.
That's maybe a better story if Max Holloway is down and then at the buzzer ends up.
And that's why he's the BMF, man. I mean, it's.
Keep trying to put that.
But
thing over.
he points to Gagey and he's like, right now we're throwing down for the final 15 seconds and throwing haymaker. They're both going to throw haymakers.
It was cool. Nobody's saying it wasn't cool. It was cool.
Yes. Kayla Harrison got a second round sub of Holly Holm and she looked pretty legit. She's going to be the champion of the women's bantamweight division in just about no time. I was a little concerned just because of how big she had been competing at, in the PFL and in her Olympic judo career, just in getting all the way down to 135. But by Saturday, she looked fine. So Kayla Harrison, I think, will be the next women's bantamweight champion. Whenever they just decide to give her the title fights, maybe they'll bring in Amanda Nunes back. That'll draw Amanda Nunes out of retirement. That she's got another challenge now to try and take down Kayla Harrison. So. It's unfortunate it took this long to get Kayla Harrison to the UFC, but she's here now, and hopefully we can continue to enjoy her for a while. Diego Lopez knocked out Sadiq Youssef pretty quickly, unfortunately, but Diego Lopez is also going to be pretty legit. This guy's really good at 145.
It's a bummer, though, because I like
Did you see?
Sadiq.
Yes, I like Sadiq Youssef, too. Hopefully, maybe because he's back-to-back losses now, maybe he'll get an easier fight in his whenever his next fight is, and maybe it'll be on a pay-per-view, like a prelim of a pay-per-view, so more people can still watch. And hopefully he can start building up a little bit because he's still pretty young too. I forget how old Sadiq Youssef is, but he's still pretty young. He's got a lot of time. Did you see any of Renato Moicano's post-fight interview? No. We call him Money Moicano. He knocked out Jalen Turner, and he had one of the best promos ever. Just he kept dropping F-bombs and he's saying MFers. Okay. And Joe Rogan, he was like, "I'm starting a podcast." So he's Brazilian, so he's got a thick Portuguese accent, but he speaks really good English still. And he said, "I'm starting a podcast. You're gonna be the first guest, and you can't say no." And Joe was like, "Okay," and it was great. I don't know, it was great.
Okay.
Really. And they did make Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler official as well at the end of the night, June 29th. For UFC 303. So I'm still in the camp of I think I'll believe it when I see it. But the fact that Conor's been quiet over the last several months.
When did he go back into the pool?
I guess it must have been about 3 or 4 months ago.
It had to be. He's got to be in for 6 months, right?
Yes. Although because USADA's out of the picture now, I'm not sure how that changes everything.
Oh, I forgot we had talked about that.
Yeah.
That could maybe help clear the way for.
Yeah, but I still think it would have this had to have been in the works for at least a couple months still.
God, how funny it would be if they just sort of said. If that's all this was about, was that they got rid of this just so that Conor McGregor could fight again and use steroids.
Yes, it worked. Credit to Michael Chandler continuing to hold out so he could get this career fight for himself. I guess he's going to be pretty set afterwards. But yeah, I think it's a good sign that we haven't heard much from Conor to this point. This weekend, Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia is on DAZN. This is Saturday night at the Barclays Center. I was out the other night and somebody asked me what I thought about the fight, and I was like,
I think Ryan Garcia is an Instagram fighter. Like I think it's good for getting attention, but I think this is Devin Haney. Like
yeah, I think. So Devin Haney. He's locked in, right? He's 31-0, and he has won his last 8 by UDs. So I'm not sure if he'll find a way to catch Ryan Garcia here. Ryan Garcia has fought since the Tank fight. He knocked out Oscar Duarte in December. So again, no one's really heard of him. But
I'm trying to figure out what the odds are. Yeah, he's a
minus
900.
Huge favorite. I was trying to find where we could get Haney at decision. I couldn't even find odds for that yet. But yeah, I mean, it seems pretty set in stone. I mean, because Garcia does have. It seems that he has legit knockout power.
You can get Haney by decision or technical decision on DraftKings for minus 125.
-1. Okay, that's actually pretty good. I mean, I could see it as in. I mean, just because we don't know what Ryan Garcia's like, where his mind is at, like where his head is at. Like maybe he does get lazy late in the fight, like because it's 12 rounds. Like he's gonna have to stay on his feet for 12 rounds still, and maybe Haney gets a technical knockout somehow late in the fight. But yeah, it doesn't seem like Ryan Garcia has much of a chance. They were supposed to throw out the first pitch at the Mets game on Tuesday, and they apparently they got into a little scuffle while doing some photo op at the Empire State Building, and the Mets were like, never mind. We don't want you guys here.
God's sakes. All right, that's Saturday?
Yes, that is Saturday. Okay. Saturday. PFL tomorrow?
No.
No one really. Bubba Jenkins is fighting. He was an NCAA champion at Arizona State.
Good for Bubba.
Yeah.
Good for Bubba.
That's about it.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
That is fighting words for this week, and then the UFC off for this weekend, and then back to action the following weekend because they loaded everything up for UFC 300. All right, let's get a tidbit. Unless you think tidbit can carry over, in which case,
I mean, I guess it could. I wanted to do it. It was the same one that we did yesterday. It was going to be the last time the Orioles had 5 straight games of 3+ homers. It was 1996.
Fine. Tidbit is brought to you today by the Green Turtle. Griffin, what's going on at the Green Turtle?
Free $10 bets today. This Thursday, today. And every Thursday at the Green Turtle, you get free $10 bets, and you can experience the ultimate destination for game day excitement, great food, and live in-person betting. That's the Bet Parks Green Turtle Sportsbooks in Towson and Canton. Go pick up your free bet and make some money while enjoying some food and some sports tonight at the Green Turtle.
How many total players hit home runs in this span?
9. August 6th to August 10th.
All right,
Palmeiro is on the list twice. Brady is on the list as well. He had 3 home runs during the stretch.
He was at his athletic opus. Surhoff.
BJ Surhoff also hit 2 home runs during the stretch. Both in the same game.
I'll try Carl Ripken.
Carl Ripken, which one?
Junior.
Yes, Junior is on the list. Yeah, he hit 1. The Milwaukee Brewers logo, by the way, in 1996 was awesome. I need like a...
it was that baseball, like they had the bat through the...
No, it was kind of like a little like a Mariners type blue.
Was it the glove?
No, it wasn't the glove. It was like this. It was like an M.
Yeah,
it was like the M and B were like intertwined, but it was like I'd never seen this Milwaukee Brewers logo.
Right. You can show it to me, but I'm pretty sure I know exactly what it is, and then you're just all right. Whatever. We'll deal with it another time.
There were 2 bats behind it.
Yeah, I said that with the bats. Did you not hear me say with the bats?
I thought you said baseball. I guess. No. Baseball and glove.
Oh,
which is what I thought you said.
How about Bobby Bo?
Yes, Bobby Bonilla hit 1 home run during this stretch. You're at 4.
The Hammer, Jeffrey Hammonds.
Yes, thrice home runs for Jeffrey Hammonds.
Chris Hoyles.
Chris Hoyles hit 1 home run during this stretch.
How about Robbie Alomar?
Yeah, twice.
Oh boy, I got a chance to go 9 for 9.
We have 2 left, I believe.
No, I got.
Oh, you have it. You
Palmeiro, Brady, Surhoff, Ripken, Bonilla, Hammonds, Hoyles, Alomar.
Okay, yeah. 1 more.
What time of year was it?
It was August.
So it was after the trade. So
August 6th through 10th.
Todd Zeal.
Not Todd Zeal.
Damn it.
They played the Brewers and the White Sox in this stretch.
How about the return of Eddie Murray?
It was, in fact, Eddie Murray.
Damn.
Eddie Murray was the 9th one to hit a home run during this stretch.
Hit his 500th home run just a couple of weeks after that on September 6th, 1996. Now you would say, Glenn, why do you remember the date where Eddie Murray hit his 500th home run? It
No,
is. It is my birthday.
it is your
Correct.
birthday.
And it was
It's the
exactly
day after.
1 year to the date after 2131.
Oh, yeah.
September 6, 1995, 2131. September 6, 1996, Eddie Murray hits his 500th home run. Young Glenn Clark thought that he was like a special,
Yeah.
like that I.
Oh, my God. What's going to happen in
yeah,
1997?
oh, my God.
What happened in 1997?
Nothing.
Nothing? Are you
Nothing.
sure?
Nothing. Nothing happened in 1997. I believe the night before they played like one of the longest games in baseball history. That went into September because
Okay, yeah, so that counts.
I kept leading up. I kept telling my friends, dude, somebody's
We
throwing
have to go.
somebody's
Yes,
throwing a
yes.
perfect game. Somebody's throwing I was convinced of it in 97. They were very good in 1997, but nothing particularly
Do
significant.
you remember who they beat that day?
in 97?
Yeah.
No, not a chance.
Why not? You remember the 2 years prior. What was different about this one?
Yeah, something notable occurred. I actually don't know that I remember who Murray hit his 500th home run against. Was it Cleveland? Maybe because he came from Cleveland.
I pulled up 97. They beat the Yankees 4-1.
And pull up the game the night before. The September 5th, 1997 game was like a absurdly long
One
game.
of those marathons.
It was like
it went 4 hours. It was a 9-inning game. It went 4 hours and 22 minutes.
then it might have been like the longest 9-inning
Started
game
at
or something like that.
7:35. So
It didn't quite make it to midnight then.
I guess it ended at like 11:50.
57.
Yeah, literally.
So it might have been one of the longest 9-inning games or something like. There was some. I remember at the end of the broadcast them being like,
The Orioles scored in 8 of the 9 innings.
maybe that was a record. I don't know. There was something that smelled like a record, and I was like, oh, if they get 12 o'clock, then I'll be able to say that there was always something. But it didn't.
Winning pitcher for the Orioles?
97?
Yeah.
The winning pitcher? It had to be a reliever.
It was actually the starter.
Was the starter
Yeah.
in that
Well,
game?
yeah, because the Orioles scored like 8 runs in the first 5 innings.
So Messina.
Not Messina. It's his 15th win of the year.
15th win of the year in 97. Jimmy Key?
Jimmy Key, winning pitcher.
Okay. All right. What else did I need to do here? Oh, tubular.
That's it.
We're done here.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
you
think
look
so.
up to see who Eddie Murray hit his 500th home run against. I'm saying Cleveland, but I don't know that. Tubular is brought to you by Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. It's everything you love about the original Atman's, now with a full bar as well. AtmansDeli.com to find out.
Wrong AL Central team.
Detroit?
Detroit. Yes.
Yeah.
They lost the game. What the hell?
Who cares? AtmansDeli.com is the website.
Oh,
AtmansDeli.com to find their
extras.
daily specials.
12 innings.
Nobody cares about that.
Another 4-hour, 18-minute game.
Gotta go, man. It's 12:37. Nothing tonight, totally tubular-wise. It stinks. Except for the Johns Hopkins women's lacrosse team is on TV. They're at Penn State at 5:30. Baseball today, Rangers, Tigers at 1 on MLB Network, 1:30 Guardians, Red Sox on MLB TV, Diamondbacks, Giants, 9:45 on Fox Sports 1. Final night of the NHL regular season on ESPN, Kraken Wild at 7, Oilers, Avalanche at 9:30. I don't know what's at stake. There's 2 different golf tournaments going on this week. I don't know why.
Which one do we watch?
I think the RBC Heritage is the one that.
Okay, yeah, that's checks.
But
I
like,
think that
there's
has
also
real
the
golfers.
Punta Cana Championship is also a thing. It's a PGA Tour event. I don't know why this is the type of crap they do on the tennis tour, where there's like 3 different tournaments going on at once, and they cannibalize each other, and they've got to figure out a way to fix it. It's something they're working on. Round 1 of the RBC Heritage today at 2 o'clock on Golf Channel. Access TV for Impact Wrestling at 8. Anything non-sports wise?
Zendaya will be on Jimmy Kimmel. She is promoting the tennis movie that she is in, Challengers.
That's right.
Challengers. So are you all hyped for that one? And
I look, man, I'll be the one to say it. We've known Zendaya too long, and I know she's an adult. I know she might be 30 at this point. I don't know.
I think she's closer to my age than.
I think she is too. I see the child Zendaya when I look at Zendaya, so I get like almost uncomfortable.
Yeah, she's closer to 30. She's 27.
Yeah, I get almost uncomfortable about like sexualized Zendaya. Like that scene in the trailer where they're having a threesome. I'm like, that girl was like 16 when she was dancing with Jacoby Jones.
I guess
Like,
Shake It Up. Shake It Up, she was like 14. When
Yeah, like and she was on the same season as Jacoby was on Dancing with the Stars, and like they were like friends, and so she came to like events in Baltimore, and it was, I don't know, the whole thing was just uncomfortable.
Orlando Bloom has his little series. This is like the.
By the way, does that come out this weekend?
The
Challenges?
next Friday.
Next Friday. Okay.
Next Friday. Where it has his series. I guess this is like
Everybody says it's a good movie. By the way, like
Okay.
it's gotten good reviews. I'll probably watch it at some point, but I don't know.
where I guess during the lockout the lockout, is that what it's called? The strike, the actor strike, and or the writer's strike, and so I guess he wanted to do his little documentary. He embarked on a physical, mental, and spiritual journey of self-discovery, where he undertook 3 extreme sports: wingsuiting, free diving, and rock climbing. This is Orlando Bloom. What's on Peacock? To the Edge.
Sure. All right,
and
there you
Conan,
go.
Conan has one.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
that one actually looks like it could be fun.
Conan Must Go it looks like, but yeah, this one looks like it's actually worth watching. Like it's a travel show.
And apparently he's like, when he was doing these, I didn't watch them, but everybody says they were very good when he was doing these shows. While he was still doing his talk show, he would like occasionally do some of these.
I forget how watching the trailer. I forget how freakishly tall Conan is. Like
I don't think I realized that.
He's like 6. I don't want to say 6. He might be 6'8". I don't know how.
Jesus, I didn't realize that. How did I not know that?
Yeah, how did you? Oh, he's 6'4". Okay,
Yeah,
I guess just
still,
he's around other people that are normal heights.
Tall. No, that's very tall.
But he's very tall.
All right, very good. Thanks today to Russell Dorsey. Thanks as well to T.T. Bowens. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow, Stan will be in, and our friend Pitching Ninja is going to join us tomorrow. Anything else?
Stuff and things.
Oh boy,
Whole reliable.
Been a real rough week. Thanks everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Ruth's Chris, Live Casino and Hotel, Atman's Deli, AJ Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Costa Sin, Hartford Community College, Glory Days Grill, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Thursday evening. Go nobody. Duke sucks.